Chapter 2342. Yin Shishir could not help but burst into tears at the sight of him in such a miserable state. However, she held it in and choked out, "Dad, don't force yourself if you can't speak. Recuperate well. I'll always be by your side," the nurse said. "Miss Yin, your father's vocal cords might be seriously damaged. It's still unknown if he can speak in the future. Right now, he can only slowly recuperate. How much can he recover?" Yin Shishir quickly nodded. "Dad, you don't have to answer me. Who attacked you that night? Do you know him? Is he your enemy? Or is he a robber? If he's a robber, just move your finger slightly." Yin Yeching's breathing quickened when he heard that. His eyes turned red and watery at once. His eyeballs suddenly trembled as he frowned with difficulty. Then, he gritted his teeth slightly. With reddened eyes, he raised a trembling finger. His thoughts suddenly ran wild. The image of the baby's red and wrinkled face when it was born seemed to appear in his eyes. Only the heavens knew how strong the joy and pride he felt when he became a father for the first time was. Yin Yeching still remembered how excited and happy he was when he held the baby girl in his arms. He excitedly carried the baby girl to Li Qin's bedside and said joyfully, "Honey, it's a girl." Li Qin sighed and muttered weakly, "Didn't the doctor reveal that it's a boy? How did you give birth to a girl?" The nurse at the side smiled and asked, "When did you find out the gender of the baby? Why did an ultrasound at 4 months?" "The doctor revealed that it's a boy," Yin Yeching said. The nurse smiled and said, "Oh, for months. The accuracy rate isn't high. At most, it's 80%. Sometimes there are mistakes. However, the girl is also very cute. The most important thing is that both mother and child are safe." Yin Yeching nodded. "That's right. It's good that both mother and child are safe." When he learned that his wife was in labor, he rushed back from abroad to welcome the new life. Li Qin muttered to herself, "I wanted a boy. If I knew it was a girl, I wouldn't have wanted it." The nurse smiled awkwardly. This pregnant woman clearly had a preference for boys over girls. She had seen many pregnant women like this and was not surprised. "What's wrong with being a girl? I quite like girls. They look fresh and cute and obedient. When they grow up, they will be our little cotton-padded jackets and warm our hearts." He looked at the infant in the swaddling clothes and liked him no matter how he looked at him, even though the newborn's face was red and wrinkled, making it hard to discern any facial features. The thought that this was his flesh and blood still made him dote on the baby immensely. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. What's important is that both mother and child are safe. Yin Yeching hugged the child lovingly. "What should I name it?" Yin Yeching replied, "A girl. Why don't we call her Yin Na? She should be a beautiful girl when she grows up." Yin Na, ever since she was born, he had loved her dearly and had supported her as they grew up. When Yin Na was young, her eyes and eyebrows were very similar to his. Especially after she entered junior high school, her facial features gradually matured, and she looked more and more like him. But how could the girl he loved and spoiled so much, with such a clear face, turn into such a hideous and twisted face? Chapter 2343. The night was bleak, and not a single star could be seen. That night, he returned home from work. After parking his car in the garage, he walked along a small path toward his apartment building. Suddenly, a familiar yet cold voice came from behind him. Yin Yeching. The voice was deep, calling out his name directly. Stunned, he turned around in shock, only to see a woman in a hoodie standing behind him with her hands in her pockets. In the dim night, she was expressionless. There was an indescribable coldness on her face. It was clearly such a familiar face, but it was unknown if it was because of the hideous scars on her face. In addition to that ice-cold expression, it inexplicably made one's hair stand on end. Yin Yeching's first reaction, however, was surprise. "Nana!" He recognized the voice at once. After sizing her up for a while, he recognized her at a glance. Unusually surprised, he went up to her and excitedly pulled her into his embrace. You're still alive. You're still alive." His voice trembled due to the excessive surprise. Tears streamed down his face as he called out her name emotionally. "You're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. I thought you were gone like your mother." Yin Na took a step back and said coldly, "Don't touch me." Yun Yeqing was stunned. He did not expect her to be so heartless. His eyes widened, and just as he was about to approach her, she took another step back and coldly tugged at the corner of her lips. "It's good that you're still alive? Haha, aren't you very happy when I'm not around? I'm no longer your stumbling block now that I'm no longer around. Why do you have to tell me that it's good that you're still alive?" On New Year's Eve, she stood behind a tree outside the villa. Through the window, she saw Yun Yeqing beaming with joy as he hugged Yu in the living room. The snow fell on her, but her heart was colder than the layer of snow on the ground. At this thought, she suddenly gripped the sulfuric acid bottle in her pocket tightly. Her smile turned colder. Yun Yeqing did not notice her little action at all and continued to call out her name in trepidation. "Nana, shut up," Yun Na said expressionlessly. "You have no right to call me by my name." Yun Na? Yun Na was dead. The one standing in front of you right now is nothing but a wandering ghost who has come to claim your life. His heart inexplicably trembled at those words that seeped into one's bones. He would never have imagined that his precious daughter who appeared before him at this moment was the incarnation of a malicious spirit who had followed him here in order to take his life. "What happened to you when you were missing for a few months? I thought that your mother had taken you away from this place. When your mother's body was found some time ago, I was worried that something bad might have happened to you. But where have you been for the past few months? Where did he go? Worry. Yun Yeqing, are you worried? Your wife and daughter are missing, but I see that you're living a happy and carefree life." Yun Na looked as if she had heard a joke. If it wasn't for her, Li Qin would still be buried at the bottom of the sea. Not to mention her corpse, even her bones, flesh, tendons, and skin would have been eaten clean by the fishes. Worried. Chapter 2344. Yun Na clenched the bottle of sulfuric acid tightly and lowered her head. Every muscle in her body was trembling with hatred. If one did not experience it personally, one would never understand the despair of struggling in the waves. How desperate she was at that time. At this moment, she hated Yun Shi and Yun Yeqing so much. How much did she hate them? She wanted to skin them alive, pull out their tendons, and throw the B'TCH into the sea to feed the fishes. She wanted to see with her own eyes how desperate they were when they died. Hee. Yun Na's mouth cracked open, and she suddenly laughed. She raised her head and stared at him with a pair of cold and bone-chilling eyes. Her laughter was so shrill that it was as if she was a malicious spirit that had climbed up from purgatory. Her voice was so cold and emotionless. It was frightening and chilling at the same time. Li Qin is already dead. Yun Na is also dead. She died in the boundless ocean. She died in the depths of despair. Yun Yeqing, you deserve to die too. Today, I'll make you accompany them in death. After Yun Na finished speaking, she slowly walked towards him. Yun Yeqing was so stunned that he forgot to dodge. He saw her take out a bottle from her pocket. It was filled with an unknown liquid. She quickly unscrewed the cap and splashed it on his face. Crash! The concentrated sulfuric acid splashed on his face and instantly burned and corroded his intact skin. Before he could react, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. He clutched his face and staggered to the ground, struggling to get up. When Yun Na saw his struggling appearance, her smile suddenly became even more complacent. She casually poured the concentrated sulfuric acid on his body as she wantonly enjoyed the sight of him constantly twitching and struggling. Her face was filled with excitement and a sinister smile. Yun Yeqing, you deserve this. The strong corrosive force instantly burned his skin until it was full of holes. Yun Na poured all the liquid in the bottle into his mouth and threw the bottle at him expressionlessly. There was no need to worry about leaving any traces on the surface of the bottle. Before this, she had already cut off her fingertips with a knife, so there would not be any fingerprints left behind. Yun Na watched expressionlessly as Yun Yeqing struggled in pain and howled at the top of his lungs. She then turned around and slowly left the scene. There was no trace of fear or guilt in his heart. She was calm and composed, as if she was taking a stroll in the back garden, and left just like that. When he woke up and regained consciousness, he knew that he had been sent to the hospital. The doctor walked in and gave him a lot of instructions. He also introduced his injuries. He had barely managed to save his life, but the rest of his life would be accompanied by pain. In a short time he was lying on the bed. He quickly recalled what had happened. When he thought of Yin Na's savage and resolute face, he couldn't help but tremble. "Dad." Yin Shirshir looked at him worriedly when she saw that he had stopped moving. Yin Yeching's eyes darted around, and he glanced at Yin Shirshir. Then, he recalled Yin Na's deranged face. After some hesitation, he finally sighed. He choked back his tears and shook his finger laboriously. If he could speak now, he would tell her without hesitation that he had been attacked by an anti-society thug on his way home. Chapter 2345. He was unable to speak, much less nod or shake his head. All he could do was bend his finger slightly as a nod. Yin Shirshir wanted to ask more, but the nurse beside her reminded her that the patient needed rest and should not ask too much. She could only drop the subject. It was not that she did not have any doubts. Robbery? Robbers? The crime scene did not look like it. It clearly looked like someone was out for revenge. However, since Yin Yeching said so, she could not pursue the matter further. She could only wait for him to recover a little before discussing the rest. Over the next few days, Yin Yeching's condition gradually stabilized. With 4 to 5 nurses taking turns to look after him, she took the time to make a trip back to Huanyu. Unexpectedly, she bumped into someone she did not want to see at the company. Yin Shirshir. Lu Jingtian had just walked out of Ji Lin's office when she spotted Yin Shirshir, who was looking for Ji Lin. She was stunned for a moment before breaking into a smile. "Long time no see. Yin Shirshir, you've been so proud of yourself while I was away from Huanyu." Yin Shirshir smiled indifferently. "What are you trying to say?" "Oh, nothing much." After not seeing her for so long, Lu Jingtian was still as arrogant as before. However, her attitude toward her was no longer as aggressive as before. Her gaze was still cold, though. "I've just returned from overseas. Director G summoned me and said that he wants to arrange the work for me. Some time ago, she had gone to America to avoid the limelight because of her scandal. While she was there, she also had plastic surgery. After a few months, she recovered well and looked prettier than before. She even had the looks of celebrity. Although Lu Jingtian's looks were not bad in the past, she was still lacking compared to those leading and A-list actresses. She had gone overseas this time to avoid being noticed and to take advantage of this time to have her surgery." Yin Shirshir did not want to bother with her and walked toward the director's office. As the two brushed past each other, Lu Jingtian suddenly mocked. "I heard that Brother Mu has stepped down from his position as the head of the Mu family. It's better for you to keep a low profile in the entertainment industry from now on. Now that we don't have the Mu family to rely on, if we continue to be as arrogant as before, we'll die a horrible death." Huanyu was an entertainment company under the Mu Group. Now, that Mu Yaja was no longer the head of the Mu family. He was no longer the master behind Huanyu. Without the Muse as her backing, she was naturally no longer afraid of her. Yin Shirshir sneered. "Oh, you too?" she asked in surprise. "What do you mean?" Yin Shirshir said casually, "Even if I don't have a big tree to rely on, you won't be my opponent." Lu Jingtian ignored her and taunted. "Hee hee. You know what? I just accepted a role as the female lead in a movie." Seeing that she was being ignored, Lu Jingtian smugly said, "I fought for this position with my own strength. Do you think I'm like you? What else can I rely on to get to the top other than using underhanded means like the unspoken rules?" Yin Shirshir smiled expressionlessly. "Which director was blind to pick you as the female lead?" Lu Jingtian was so angry at her sharp questioning that she almost jumped up. Chapter 2346. She paused for a moment and smiled lightly, but every word she said was like a gem. "Do you feel out of character when you're acting? You." Lu Jingtian was furious. After glaring at her for a while, she suddenly burst into laughter. "Yin Shirshir, let's wait and see. Do you think you can still be as smug as before?" "Hee hee." With that, she lifted her head and left in her 8-centimeter high heels. Yin Shirshir stood at the door and knocked on it. Ji Lin's cold voice was heard. "Who is it?" "Director Ji, it's me. Come in." Yin Shirshir pushed the door open and walked in. Seeing her, Ji-Lin looked up and asked quizzically, "Aren't you taking care of your father at the hospital? Why are you here?" "Director Ji, thank you for taking care of my father. But—" Yin Shir paused and took out a check wrapped in an envelope from her bag. It was given to her by Ji-Lin and Qin Zhou when they went to the hospital. It was a six-figure sum. "I can't accept this money." Ji-Lin glanced at her before his gaze landed on the envelope. His lips curled up. "What's this for? I appreciate the director's concern, but I can't accept such a large sum of money." With that, she handed the envelope over with both hands and smiled. "Thank you." Ji-Lin did not reach out to take it, though. "Take it? Question mark. This is a small token from Qin Zhou and me." A small token? Yin Shir could not help but be speechless. She had never seen anyone take out so much money just to visit a patient at the hospital. This was a little too exaggerated. Ji-Lin said, "Don't be fooled by how much money it is. A portion of it is the final payment from the commercial you shot. It's what you deserve." "The final payment from the commercial? Didn't you shoot a shampoo commercial before?" "Yes," Ji-Lin said concisely. "This is the final payment." Did the advertiser not fork out a few million yuan at that time? Where did the final payment come from? Yin Shir was skeptical. "You came looking for me because of this?" "Yes." Ji-Lin suddenly put down his work, looked up, and asked seriously, "How is your father's injury?" "He's still under observation. He's slowly recovering. The last time I took a look, the injuries were very serious. His face is completely disfigured." Yin Shir pursed her lips and nodded. Ji-Lin asked worriedly, "Is there any news from the police station? Have you caught the criminal?" She shook her head. "There's no news yet. The police said that because the criminal didn't leave any evidence and it was already very late at the time of the incident, they couldn't find any witnesses, so it's very difficult to investigate." "That's a lot trickier." Ji-Lin suddenly probed. "Could it be that your father offended someone with a strong background? No matter how I look at it, it seems like they're here for revenge. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so ruthless." "That's what I suspected as well, but father didn't say much about it. He only said that it was a robbery." "When can you come back to work?" "Probably next month. When my father's condition stabilizes, I'll be free." When she left Ji-Lin's office, Yin Shir pondered over his words. No matter how she looked at it, it seemed like they were here for revenge. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so ruthless. Revenge? Chapter 23:47. For a moment, she could not make sense of this matter. However, her eyelids kept twitching, and she had a feeling that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Yin Shir fell into a state of confusion. She bade farewell to Ji-Lin and left Huanyu in a hurry. After she hurriedly got into the car and left, Lu Jingtian sat in the car expressionlessly and snorted. "What a b******. Her manager hurriedly said, Tian, don't waste any more time. You still have to pick out a gown with Miss Enya this afternoon." Okay. I got it, don't rush me." She then looked at the driver's seat and ordered, "Let's go." Bazaar's annual charity gala was in a few days' time. She had finally obtained an entry ticket, so naturally, she had to dress up grandly. For this opportunity, she had paid a hefty price. She only hoped that she could make friends with some well-known directors and producers at this charity gala. She was not one of those short-sighted artists who would sell themselves in one go and find a sugar daddy to discuss marriage. When it came to acting, she had stepped into this industry because of her passion for acting. Aside from her passion, however, she also had a desire for fame and fortune. Was it purely for wealth? She came from a well-to-do family, so she had resources and people to support her. So what if that incident happened? Once she returned to the country, she could still get people to groom her for the female lead. Although it was not a blockbuster, it was already good enough for her to get the female lead role. She had a good background, so she did not have to climb up through unspoken rules like those female stars who had no resources. Still, although she came from a well-to-do family, it could not satisfy her ambition. There was a saying, "Man strives for higher places just as water flows to the bottom." Once one got involved in things like glory and wealth, one's ambition would be uncontrollable. In order to be worthy of a better partner, she naturally had to become more outstanding. This was her goal. Therefore, She urgently needed fame to stabilize her position. As for her dark history, once she conquered the audience with her acting skills, what else could she not clear? In the afternoon, she went to a fashion store with Song Inya to pick out a gown as promised. Naturally, she had to dress up to attend the charity gala. Unlike Lu Jingtian, Song Inya was invited to attend the charity event. Lu Jingtian had met Song Inya a few times after returning to the country, but she was unaware of some of the things that had happened to the latter recently. Naturally, this included Song Inya's pregnancy. She only knew that Song Inya had disappeared for a while some time ago. It was said that she had gone to America, and there was no news of her since. After returning to the country, she had changed completely. It was a change in temperament. Song Inya used to be arrogant and carefree, but now she was more reserved than before. The two chatted as they picked out their gowns. Just as Lu Jingtian excitedly asked her if a particular gown would match her aura, the Missy suddenly retched. She hurriedly covered her mouth and rushed to the washroom. Startled, Lu Jingtian followed her to the washroom, only to see her leaning over the counter and retching violently. She could not help but frown in surprise at the heart-wrenching retching. Chapter 2348. Song Inya, who had been lying motionless in front of the table, slowly straightened up and looked at her pale face in the mirror in confusion. She then looked at Lu Jingtian's bewildered face and smiled awkwardly. "It's nothing." As soon as she said that, there was another reaction. She covered her mouth and retched for a while, looking extremely painful. Lu Jingtian's heart skipped a beat when she saw this. She raised a brow and could not help laughing dryly. "If it weren't for the fact that you don't have a boyfriend, I'd really suspect that you're pregnant." "No." Song Inya denied it with a look of embarrassment. However, such a strong reaction was undoubtedly a bit of an attempt to cover it up. Lu Jingtian became even more suspicious. "Inya, you don't have to be so serious. Can't you tell that I'm joking?" Song Inya's face turned pale for a while before she tugged at the corners of her lips. "This joke isn't funny at all." With that, she turned around and was about to leave. Lu Jingtian suddenly grabbed her wrist nervously and asked sensitively, "Inya, don't tell me. You're really pregnant?" She was not stupid. How could she not tell that such a strong reaction was a typical pregnancy reaction? She had only suspected it at first, but Song Inya's vehement denial only confirmed her guess. She had noticed earlier that the packaging in Song Inya's bag was specially made for pregnant women and had the least amount of lead and mercury. A look of panic flashed across Song Inya's face. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes in pain as she slowly said, "Jingtian, I really don't know what to do." After saying that, she squatted on the ground desolately, buried her face in her arms, and started sobbing silently. Lu Jingtian walked over worriedly and gently patted her on the shoulder when she saw the latter shrug. "What exactly happened?" I'm pregnant." Song Inya's voice was very soft, as if she was ashamed. With just one sentence, her face turned red as if it was on fire. Lu Jingtian was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth and was stunned for a moment before she asked, "Whose child is it, Moo?" The moment Song Inya said the surname, Lu Jingtian could not help but shudder. Could it be Brother Mu? Mu Yinqing. Song Inya's eyes reddened helplessly. "The child is his. How can this be?" Lu Jingtian could not help feeling flustered. "Mu Yinqing. How could this be?" They were completely different people. Lu Jingtian and Mu Yinqing were acquainted with each other. Sometimes they would meet for a drink at a bar. She would even bring along a number of good-looking playmates from her circle. Mu Yinqing was also a playboy, but Lu Jingtian knew that he had a long-term girlfriend who was a young model. No matter how hard he changed women around him, this young model was the only one who would never leave his side. They seemed to have been together for 3 years. 3 years. For such a dissolute man, it was already not simple. Lu Jingtian had always been curious about what that young model looked like to be able to keep such a man by her side for so long. She had suggested several times for Mu Yinqing to bring her out to have some fun, but the latter was so protective of her that he refused to do so no matter what. To Lu Jingtian, he was more like a big brother. Chapter 2349. Although he was a playboy, he was very principled. He would never touch a woman he should not. Still, how'd he end up with Song Inya? Lu Jingtian was perplexed. What exactly happened? Under Lu Jingtian's relentless questioning, Song Inya finally revealed the truth about what had happened that night. That day, I bumped into Brother Yinching at a bar. I saw him sitting alone in a corner, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Feeling depressed, I walked over to take a look at him. Initially, I wanted to have a drink with him, but after just one glass of alcohol, he was already dead drunk. Hence, I suggested sending him home. He refused to go home, though. I didn't know his address, so I naturally didn't dare to be rash. Thus, I thought of sending him to a hotel out of kindness. Lu Jingtian became nervous at once. And then, I helped him to the hotel room, and he carried me up in his arms. Then, at the mention of the painful part, Song Inya cried aggrievedly. I shouted no, but perhaps because he was drunk, he didn't listen to me at all. You know how a woman's strength can compete with a man's too. On the big bed in the hotel, he took me. She wept bitterly. Lu Jingtian was speechless. He forced himself on you? Song Inya looked helpless. I said no, but he didn't listen to my pleas at all. That was my first time. Lu Jingtian was furious when she heard this. What did he say after that? Song Inya shook her head. After that, it was left unsettled. After he sobered up, he apologized and repented. He said that he was drunk and that it was an unintentional mistake. What an unintentional mistake. A girl's chastity was ruined by him just like that. Lu Jingtian was also hurt by her words. Those dark memories came back to her as well. She clenched her fists tightly and said indignantly, "Men are all bastards." She then pressed, "What happened after that? Did you take the pill?" Take the pill? Oh yes, the morning after pill. The morning after pill is effective for 72 hours. Yin Shishir shook her head in astonishment. No. After I went back, my mind was in a mess, and I forgot about it. Then, have you tested it before? Song Inya lowered her gaze as she bit her lower lip and nodded. Lu Jingtian hurriedly asked, "What are the results of the test?" 2 red lines. It's probably... There it is. Lu Jingtian furrowed her brows. Song Inya suddenly took out a box from her handbag. The box contained a pregnancy test kit. She took out a test kit from a box and showed it to her. She took it and was shocked. "You're really pregnant? I don't know if this is accurate." Song Inya stared at him blankly. Lu Jingtian replied, "Just because the pregnancy test failed doesn't mean that she's not pregnant, but once it does, she's definitely pregnant." With that, she gritted her teeth angrily. Mu Yinching, that be asterisk starred. I thought he always knew when to stop. The two of them had been in a relationship for so many years, although they were not as close as sisters at this moment. Perhaps because Lu Jingtian was reminded of some unbearable past, she resonated and was filled with righteous indignation. "Jingtian, what should I do?" Chapter 2350. What else can we do? She yelled. He must take responsibility for what he's done. Shoo. Song Inya hurriedly covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. Inya, this isn't something to be ashamed of. You're innocent and a victim. What's there to hide? It's best if you make a big deal out of it and let everyone know about it. Let that jerk step forward and take responsibility for you. But I don't dare. Song Inya flinched. Lu Jingtian snorted. What's there to be afraid of? Just you wait. Isn't Mu Yinching going to attend the charity event? When the time comes, I'll help you tell him that you don't have to feel ashamed. The one who should feel ashamed is him. Song Inya was touched. Jingtian, thank you. Thank you so much. You've done so much for me. Lu Jingtian laughed coyly. We're good friends, after all. Don't worry. Although Mu Yinching did such a thing, he won't deny you if you're pregnant. Okay, all right. There's no point in thinking so much now. Come and pick out an outfit for me. Okay. Lu Jingtian turned around. Behind her, the helplessness on Song Inya's face suddenly faded and was replaced by a smug smile. After picking out the gown and walking out, Lu Jingtian suggested shopping at a nearby mall to buy a bag, but Song Inya declined, saying that she was not feeling well and wanted to go home to rest. Since it was boring to be alone, Lu Jingtian was no longer in the mood to shop, so she waved her goodbye at the entrance. Song Yinya took a taxi home directly, while Lu Jingtian's car was parked in the parking lot. It was already late at night by now. She walked toward the parking lot in her high heels. The wind was a little stronger at night, so she quickened her pace. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. The path to the parking lot was sparsely populated, and the dim street lights elongated people's shadows. She initially thought that she was hallucinating, so she slowed down her pace. However, the person behind her slowed down as well. The two kept a distance of several meters, one in front and one behind. Lu Jingtian, however, could not help feeling a little wary. She stopped in her tracks and glanced behind her. Out of the corner of her eye, she vaguely caught a glimpse of a strange shadow behind her. She abruptly turned her head to look, only to see a person dressed in black standing behind her. The man was wearing a hooded sweater. Due to the hooded hood, his face was hidden in the darkness, so she could not see his face clearly. However, when their eyes met, she was startled to find a pair of murderous eyes fixed on her. Seeing that she had stopped, the black-clothed man did not hesitate much. After a while, he lifted his feet and quickly walked towards her. Lu Jingtian caught sight of the dagger in the man's hand at once. Under the streetlight, the gleam of the dagger gave her a fright. Lu Jingtian's face turned pale with fright. Letting out a shriek, she turned around and ran toward the car. The black-clothed man behind her quickly chased after her. Lu Jingtian became timid and worried that it was a robber. She ran for her life until she saw her white car. Like a person drifting in the sea seeing a piece of driftwood, she rushed over with her hair disheveled and frantically banged on the car window. "Open the door! Open the door!" A series of screams alarmed the driver. Chapter 23:51. The chauffeur hurriedly unlocked the car. She opened the door, jumped in, and closed it. She was not completely scared out of her wits, and even knew to lock the door from the inside. After getting in, she felt a sense of security. She leaned against the car window and looked out, but she did not see that suspicious person again. Still, she could not be completely at ease as she shouted, "Drive! Drive! Miss Jingtian, what's wrong?" She panicked. Someone is chasing after me. He's giving off a murderous aura." The chauffeur was a little surprised. He looked in the direction she was running from, but did not see anyone suspicious. "Drive quickly. Hurry." She was scared out of her wits as she waved her hands and gave orders. The chauffeur muttered inwardly, "What's this missy up to again?" Still, he did not dare to neglect her orders. He immediately started the car and slowly drove out of the parking lot. Not far away, a man in black stood out from behind a tree. He looked expressionlessly in the direction the car had left in before coldly turning to leave. Lu Jingtian's sharp eyes caught sight of his figure in the rearview mirror. She turned around abruptly, but he was no longer there. Could it be that her eyes were playing tricks on her? She was too paranoid. The chauffeur said, "It was a false alarm. I didn't see anyone suspicious on the way here." She sucked in a deep breath of cold air. However, when she turned around, she could clearly feel that person's murderous aura. "Miss Jingtian, do you want to send you home now?" "Yes. Let's go back." Lu Jingtian still had lingering fears even after she reached home. When she stepped into the dark room, she jumped in fright and quickly turned on the lights. Only when the room was brighter did she feel slightly more at ease. She thought back to the person who had deliberately followed her. He gave off an inexplicable sense of familiarity and was not a stranger. It was déjà vu. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could not recall anything. Forget it. Don't let your imagination run wild. I must take care to rest well these few days, lest it affects my complexion. I won't be beautiful on the day of the charity banquet. Lu Jingtian went to bed early. 5 days later, the charity banquet arrived as scheduled. That night, the Bazaar charity banquet was held at 8 o'clock in the evening. The stars on the red carpet. There were many celebrities and famous entrepreneurs in the charity industry invited to the charity banquet. Most of the entrepreneurs who attended the charity banquet had a tacit understanding of their motives. To hunt for beauties, for food. Who was genuinely here for charity? For charity? How many peoples of their hearts? The ulterior motive was not in the wine. These entrepreneurs were shrewd. At the banquet, there would be some famous people's calligraphy and paintings or private collections, and the proceeds from the auction would all be used for public welfare. There were plenty of connections as is twos, of course. At the climax of the party, there would also be a charity donation. Of course, to the rich, and of that to the rich, to of the rich, to make. To of course, to. Twos. Of course, SS, of them, of course. Of, and, that was of to the of course. Chapter 2352. If they donated a lot, they could even be worshipped by the public, which was very respectable. With their status, they no longer cared about money and only wanted to be in the limelight. Mu Yinqing was here. Lu Jingtian and Song Inya entered the venue and immediately spotted the man, who was surrounded by a host of admirers. Lu Jingtian was about to walk over when she saw him walking in another direction with 2 glasses of wine in his hands. He stopped in front of a woman. Lin Shuya. Lu Jingtian was taken aback. Since when did Mu Yinqing and Lin Shuya get so close? Song Inya bit her lower lip and muttered, I heard that the Muse have arranged a marriage for him. The other party is Lin Shuya, the daughter of the Lin family. The two have met, and they're probably getting to know each other better now. Lu Jingtian was indignant. That's too much. He did that to you. Doesn't he intend to give you an explanation? Compared to the Lin family's daughter, I naturally don't have enough weight. If he can get a marriage alliance with the Lin family, his status in the Muse will also rise with the support of such power. Be *starred. Lu Jingtian scolded again. Forget it. Song Inya was obviously going to give up. Anyway, he has no intention of taking responsibility. Why don't we just abort the child and cut off all ties? How can we do that? Lu Jingtian disagreed. Inya, don't you know how cruel an abortion is to a woman? You haven't even taken a first step, so how can you give up? Besides, she paused for a moment before continuing. To be fair, marrying Mu Yinqing isn't a bad choice for you either. But we have no feelings for each other. Can we be happy if we get married? Marriage is different from dating. What's the point of talking about marriage when it's already at this stage? Lu Jingtian was very clear about it. As long as he marries you and gives you a status, you won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. What's the point of having a relationship? Inya, you should know what you want. Song Inya kept quiet at the side. Lu Jingtian could not stand it anymore. She stomped her feet and reminded her, Stay here and wait for me to come back. With that, she walked toward Mu Yinqing. Song Inya pretended to stop her, but she did not stop her from leaving. Smiling inwardly, she turned around to chat with the others. In the venue, the lights were elegant and the lights were intertwined. Mu Yinqing and Lin Shuya were talking about something. Compared to the estrangement and aggressiveness they had when they first met, Lin Shuya was much more restrained now. When they talked about something interesting, she would even chime in with a smile. Mu Yinqing was greatly encouraged. She no longer had such a strong sense of rejection and enmity toward him. Being with him was actually a good start. Right now, the man had long forgotten about the unpleasantness between him and Song Inya that day. Hence, when she appeared in front of him in a fit of rage, he was still at a loss. Jingtian, he smiled and sized her up. You're here too. Of course. I also received an invitation. Naturally, Lin Shuya did not have a good impression of this woman who had appeared out of nowhere. She sneered and did not give her any face. Oh, why didn't I see your name on the invitation list? Chapter 2353. She stood between the two and said to Lin Shuya, Please leave us alone for a while. I have something to discuss with Brother Yinqing. Oh, are you chasing me away? Lin Shuya naturally did not fall for this trick. Holding the wine glass, she raised a brow and said, I'm sorry, but I like to stand here. You have no right to obstruct me. All right, it's fine if you don't leave. Lu Jingtian could not wait for her to stay. She suddenly took out a box from her exquisite handbag and threw it in front of Mu Yinqing. She said coldly, "Brother Yinqing, take a look for yourself. Look at what you've done." Mu Yinqing picked up the box nonchalantly, only to see that it was a pregnancy test kit. His eyelids twitched violently. "What is this?" "You'll know what it is when you open it for yourself." Lu Jingtian crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking unforgiving and unreasonable. Mu Yinqing was a little annoyed at her untimely appearance, but in front of Lin Shuya, he naturally had to be gentlemanly. Hence, he said, "Let's talk at the side." "Why?" "Brother Yinqing, are you feeling guilty right now? There are no outsiders here." Lin Shuya also took a look curiously, only to see that it was a pregnancy test kit. She furrowed her brows in confusion. "What is this?" "Nothing," Mu Yinqing said perfunctorily. "It's just something boring." "You?" Lu Jingtian could not take it anymore. She simply snatched the box from his hand and opened it. A pregnancy test kit fell on the table. Lin Shuya picked it up immediately, only to see two eye-catching lines on the pregnancy test kit. "What is this?" She glared at Mu Yinqing suspiciously. Lu Jingtian glared at Mu Yinqing and said fiercely, "Do you know that Inya is pregnant?" "She's pregnant with your child. Don't you intend to give an explanation?" "Pregnant?" Lin Shuya laughed out of the blue. "What does Song Inya's pregnancy have to do with him?" Lu Jingtian glared at Mu Yinqing and said through gritted teeth, "Brother Yinqing knows very well whether it has anything to do with him." Mu Yinqing's face froze for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure and said expressionlessly, "Jingtian, don't fool around." "I'm not fooling around," Lu Jingtian said a little angrily. "Brother Yinqing, since you've made a mistake, as a man, shouldn't you? Or do you think that Inya is a cheap woman, so cheap that you don't deserve an explanation, even if you defiled her?" "Jingtian," Mu Yinqing was also annoyed. "Is there a need to talk about this in such an occasion?" "Of course." At the side, Lin Shuya suddenly sneered. "I finally understand what's going on." She threw the pregnancy test kit at Mu Yinqing and glared at him coldly. "Mu Yinqing, you're really interesting." With that, she's to leave. Mu Yinqing immediately reached out to grab her hand. "Shuya, listen to me. Leave your explanation to your second uncle." With that, Lin Shuya left without looking back. Mu Yinqing looked on helplessly as Lin Shuya walked away. Suppressing his anger, he turned to look at Lu Jingtian and sneered through gritted teeth. "Lu Jingtian, are you satisfied now?" Chapter 2354. Mu Yinqing was so angry that he blurted out, "There are plenty of women I've impregnated. Do I have to give them an explanation? Or do I have to marry them one by one? Or be a concubine?" "You." Lu Jingtian's face flushed red with anger at his crooked words. Annoyed at her untimely appearance, Mu Yinqing did not hold back with his words. "Besides, what can a pregnancy test kit prove? How can I be sure that the child in her stomach is mine?" She sneered. "Don't you know whether the child in her stomach is yours or not?" Mu Yinqing sneered in return. "Why should I know? This pregnancy test kit can only prove that she's pregnant, but it can't prove that the child in her stomach is mine." Lu Jingtian was dumbfounded for a long time. Suddenly, Song Inya's sarcastic voice came from behind. "If you don't believe me, there's no harm in doing a paternity test with you." Startled, Mu Yinqing turned around, only to see Song Inya standing elegantly behind him in a gown. Her eyes were cold and disappointed. "Brother Yinqing, don't you think that your words just now were too hurtful?" "Inya," he was a little surprised. "Why are you here?" Could it be? He glanced at the contraceptive kit on the table from the corner of his eye and suddenly realized something. Lu Jingtian came knocking on his door so aggressively. Could it be that Song Inya had instructed her to do so? That woman was really shrewd and ruthless. How could he not tell that Lu Jingtian was so indignant because of Song Inya's instigation and instigation? At this thought, he said coldly, "So, you got Jingtian to ruin my show in public just to get a status from me and fan the flames between me and Miss Shuya?" Get a status. Song Inya's body swayed. Clearly, she had suffered a blow. This was definitely not an act. Her heart was really pierced by this sentence. Get a status. She had always been such an arrogant person. Apart from Brother Mu, She did not care about any other man. Now, however, she was so lowly that she did not hesitate to use underhanded means to tie up a man and demand a marriage with no status. How did she fall to such a lowly state? At the side, Lu Jingtian grumbled in dissatisfaction. Calling her Miss Xuya is really nice. Calling her so intimately? But why don't you think about it? Do you think she'll take a liking to you? I was just teasing you. Mu Yinqing was not in the mood to entertain her. Feeling a stab of pain in her heart, Song Inya mocked coldly. Brother Yinqing, you're such a disappointment. Since you already have Lin Xuya, why are you still provoking me? I'm innocent. Do you think I'm happy to have this child? She raised her voice slightly, and the surrounding guests heard her angry voice and turned their heads curiously. They looked around and whispered to each other. Isn't that the eldest daughter of the Song family? Why is she with young Master Yinqing? The two of them look a little ambiguous. Could it be Mu Yinqing warily scanned his surroundings and immediately took a step forward to grab her hand? He then turned around and led her to a remote corner. Banquet hall, corridor, dead end. Very few people passed by. Chapter 2355. Along the way, Song Inya kept struggling, but Mu Yinqing refused to let go of her. When they reached a corner, he suddenly pressed her against the wall and stared at her fiercely. He sneered expressionlessly. Song Inya, what tricks are you up to? Brother Yinqing, what do you mean by that? With tears in her eyes, Song Inya put on an innocent look. He said angrily, You don't have to put on such a pitiful look. Do you think I don't know that you're just putting on an act? Tell me, where did the child come from? What do you mean? I'm warning you again. Don't play tricks with me. Mu Yinqing pinched her face hard and gritted his teeth. Song Inya, it's not that I haven't played with women before. On the contrary, I'm very sensitive to women's bodies. If I really touched you, I'd have a reaction to your body. Also, even if we really did have sex that night, how long has it been since you announced that you're pregnant? You're just trying to blow this matter up so that I'll have no choice but to bow down to you and marry you because of public opinion. Isn't that right? Song Inya was stunned. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she was still engrossed in her act. Brother Yinqing, you're shameless and despicable. It's clearly you. Clearly you're the one who bullied me. How can you accuse me like this? Do you think I want to be pregnant? I wish that this had never happened. How can you bear to falsely accuse me like this? Falsely accuse? Mu Yinqing's lips suddenly curved into a sinister smile. The next day, I went for a blood test. Song Inya was stunned, and her expression froze. Guess what the test results were? Mu Yinqing leaned forward and whispered in her ear with a sneer, The wine I drank was laced with a knockout drug. That night, you were the only person I came into contact with. Unfortunately, something like that happened. Song Inya, how can I not suspect that you're trying to get close to me with ulterior motives? I don't know how this child in your stomach came about, or whose it is. Don't even think about making use of me. Song Inya turned pale with fright. She did not expect him to be so astute as to go to the hospital for a checkup the next day after leaving the hotel. Actually, he did not suspect anything about his one-night stand with Song Inya that morning, but Jiang Qiming's appearance made him suspicious instead. There was no such coincidence. If something really happened between him and Song Inya in a drunken stupor, then how did Jiang Qiming obtain such accurate information, even down to the room number? He suspected that Song Inya had told Jiang Qiming about what had happened last night, but the helplessness and panic that the Missy had displayed at that time were clearly out of her wits. Even when he approached and comforted her, she was so frightened that she shrank into a corner and broke down emotionally. It was hard to imagine how she could tell Jiang Qiming the exact same thing and calmly tell her the hotel address and room number when she lost control of her emotions. It was self-contradictory. The appearance of such a coincidence was rather abrupt. Mu Yinqing calmed down. No matter how he thought about it, he could not shake the feeling that something was amiss. Chapter 2356. Just as Jiang Qiming had said, although he was not as shrewd as Muyaja, he was not an ordinary person to be able to get to where he was. Hence, after leaving the hotel, he went to the hospital for a checkup. What made him suspicious was that after he woke up, his memory of everything that had happened after he was drunk was blurry. How could he be so drunk after drinking more than a bottle of red wine? Waking up with a splitting headache was not a normal reaction after a hangover. Besides, he had a good tolerance for alcohol, so he would not be so drunk that he could not even remember what had happened last night. The results of the checkup did not surprise him much. His blood tests showed that there were traces of drugs in it, which meant that there was something wrong with the wine he drank last night. His first reaction was that Song Inya must have done something to his wine, which led to what happened next. He was too careless. He was not prepared for it. When he got this result, he did not go to find Song Inya to reason with her immediately. Firstly, he really did not know why she would use such a method that was close to ruining her reputation. It would be inappropriate for him to go there rashly. Secondly, he did not know what tricks she would play next to make use of him. Furthermore, he was saving some face for the Song family. Unexpectedly, not long after, this woman came looking for him with a pregnancy test kit and asked him to take responsibility. He couldn't help but wonder whose blood flowed in the child in her stomach. What's your motive? Just say it. At this point, what's the point of hiding? As soon as he said that, Song Inya burst into laughter all of a sudden. Motive? Did you plan all this so meticulously just for thrills and fun? He glared at her. Tell me, what's your motive? Seeing that her plan had been exposed, Song Inya did not show any anger or fear. Instead, she calmed down and said calmly, I want you to marry me. Dream on. Why should I marry you? Mu Yinqing asked without hesitation. That night, no matter what the truth is, someone saw you and me entering the hotel. There are also CCTV records. My mother also caught you on the spot. Hee hee. You're asking me why you should marry me? Because I'm pregnant with your child. Haha. The child in your stomach may not be mine. Naturally, Mu Yinqing did not believe her one-sided story. He only thought that she was fooling around outside and accidentally got pregnant. Thus, she coveted the status of the Mu family's young mistress and wanted to rely on him to enjoy wealth and glory. Naturally, he would not let her have her way. Song Inya suddenly laughed. Won't the truth be out once we check if the baby is yours? Mu Yinqing was stunned. He tried his best to search for even the slightest clue on her face, but seeing her solemn vow without the slightest bit of guilt, he found it hard to believe. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Song Inya continued. You're right. That night, nothing happened between us, but the child in my stomach was indeed yours. You can ask for a test or a certificate. As long as you don't hurt the child, I'm at your mercy. Chapter 23:57. How did the child come about? The man was even more confused now. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to know is that you're the child's biological father, and there's an undeniable blood relationship between you. What the hell? He was so annoyed that he wanted to just walk away. Song Inya calmly said from behind, Mu Yinqing, wake up and be more rational. Right now, I need you, and you need me too. Don't count on the marriage alliance with the Lins anymore. Who do you think you are? An arrogant woman like Lin Shuya will never take a fancy to you. Don't you just want to be the head of the Mu family? Marry me, and with the Song family's power, we'll be able to help you. As long as you marry me. Mu Yinqing's footsteps paused, but he did not look back. After a moment of silence, he strode away. Song Inya tried to pull herself together until he was gone. Her body went limp, and she leaned against the wall with her arms hanging limply by her side. Haha, how can I be so shameless? Forget it. Since I've already taken this step, there's no turning back. I can only get what I want by hook or by crook. When she returned to the banquet hall, Mu Yinqing was nowhere to be seen. Seeing her return, Lu Jingtian anxiously went up to her and asked worriedly, Inya, what were you two doing just now? I saw Mu Yinqing leave in a huff. He seemed to be very angry. It's nothing. I just had a showdown with him. Song Inya turned around and smiled elegantly. Jingtian, if I become the young mistress of the Mu family, will you give me your blessings? Why, of course. Lu Jingtian was stunned. Have you really let go of Brother Mu, though? Don't you miss him anymore? Song Inya calmly replied, Naturally, I'll let go of what I shouldn't be thinking about. Jingtian, I'm no longer the old Song Inya. The old Song Inya is already dead. I know very well what I want now. Lu Jingtian was shocked. This woman has really changed. Mu Yinqing went straight back to the Mu residence and found Mu Linfeng in the study. He went into the study and locked the door. Then, he explained the matter in a concise and comprehensive manner. Second uncle, what should I do now? Mu Linfeng was momentarily stunned. Are you serious? She told me that directly. I'm also a little confused. That little girl from the Song clan actually did such a thing. Mu Linfeng did not doubt his nephew's words. Naturally, he did not believe that his nephew would mess with Song Inya. Mu Yinqing repeated himself. Second uncle, you must believe me. I really didn't do that. I know everything you said. What should we do now? Mu Yinqing was at a loss. Do I really have to marry her? Why? From what you've said, that girl from the Song family doesn't seem to be spouting nonsense. Her attitude was so firm. So the child in her belly must be yours. Now that technology is so advanced, it shouldn't be too difficult to confirm the child's identity. She must be fearless to say that. But I didn't do anything with her. There was none in the past, and there is none now. I don't even know where that child came from. Chapter 2358. After all, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Mu Linfeng suddenly thought of this matter. I heard that the last disappeared for a while some time ago. After she came back, a series of things happened. Perhaps she used such means. Mu Yinqing was jolted awake. Only then did he realize that there was indeed such a loophole in the sperm bank. Second uncle, could it be that she took and went for an operation to get pregnant with my child through artificial insemination? Yes, that's possible. What should we do then? Mu Yinqing was instantly in a terrible fix. I don't want to marry her. A woman like her, who was good at playing tricks, would be intimidating to all men. Isn't it the same no matter who you marry? Since this matter has already happened, I'm afraid that the Song family will come knocking on our door and make things difficult for both sides. It's better to consider this matter at length. No matter what, I'll listen to second uncle's arrangements. Mu Yinqing expressed his sincerity. Mu Linfeng nodded in satisfaction. You can go back, then. I still have a lot of things to worry about, so let's put this matter aside for now. Okay. Mu Yinqing stood up, nodded, and retreated. During the charity night, Lu Jingtian befriended a few producers and successfully obtained some good resources. One of them was a big movie that had recently started casting in full swing. This might be a good start for her. By the time she returned from an audition, it was already 11 p.m. When she passed by a pub, she parked her car at the side and asked a few of her best friends to have a drink. She sat in a private room on the second floor and quietly listened to the live broadcast. Just as she was feeling bored, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a dark figure slowly walking over from an unknown corner until it stopped beside her. Lu Jingtian's heart skipped a beat. She raised her head in alarm and suddenly met a pair of eyes that resembled black holes. A chilling, murderous aura assaulted her like invisible blades stabbing into her body. This person was not unfamiliar to her. Lu Jingtian recognized him at once. He was the man in black who had been tailing her that night. She was still wearing the hoodie she had worn that day. With the hood on her head, her facial features were hidden in the shadows. Under the dim light, it was impossible to see her silhouette clearly. However, one could vaguely see the hideous scars on her face. Coupled with such a ferocious and terrifying face and the terrifying aura on his body, there was no doubt that he was a malicious spirit that had come to claim his life. Lu Jingtian's face turned pale with fright. She opened her mouth to let out a scream, but it was quickly silenced. She lowered her head in a daze and looked at the man's outstretched hand. A sharp dagger poked out from his sleeve and was pressed against her waist. Don't call me that. That person's voice was extremely cold and heavy, like the sea in the middle of the night, incomparably cold. Due to this kind of deterrence, she didn't dare to make a sound for a while. You want? What do you want? Lu Jingtian's lips quivered as she asked with a pale face. The man in black smiled and sat down directly opposite her. I'm just here to catch up with an old friend. Why? Am I not welcome? Lu Jingtian swallowed hard and asked with a sobbing voice, Who exactly are you? What do you want? Chapter 2359. After she finished speaking, she slowly took off her hat, revealing an extremely terrifying face that was riddled with scars. Lu Jingtian did not recognize her at first, but when she saw the scars on her face, which seemed to have been inflicted by a blade, her heart skipped a beat and her expression changed drastically. Don't be asterisk TC. Let's see how you're going to attract bees and butterflies after I cut your face. Don't. Memories came crashing down on her like a stormy sea. Lu Jingtian fell back in her seat in horror. It's you. Do you recognize me? Lu Jingtian trembled in fright. She could not even remember the other's name. She only knew that the scars on her face were all caused by this woman. After that incident, this woman seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Her father had settled everything, and she thought that everything was over. She did not expect this woman to suddenly appear. Could it be that she's here for revenge? At this thought, Lu Jingtian could not help but feel her hair stand on end. She clenched her fists tightly as she broke out in a cold sweat. It seems that Miss Lu isn't stupid. You've seen clearly who caused these scars on my face. Her words undoubtedly made Lu Jingtian even more restless. In contrast to her sitting on pins and needles, Yana was the opposite. She was calm and composed as she sat at the side. Slowly, she took out a bottle of transparent liquid from her pocket and poured it into a goblet. She gently swirled the liquid around, but did not drink it. Her pair of cold eyes shot daggers at Lu Jingtian as if she wanted to gouge out her flesh. I'm sorry. Lu Jingtian was so frightened that tears rolled down her cheeks. Clenching her fists tightly, she said in a trembling voice, that time, I didn't mean it. I didn't really want to disfigure you. I was just in a fit of anger, so apologize. The corners of Yin Na's mouth twitched, yet there wasn't any expression on her face. She was neither shocked, furious, nor happy, and it caused one's hair to stand on end instead. Truly interesting. You destroyed my appearance and caused me to be reduced to such a state. Can a light apology really make up for everything? Can a simple apology restore my face to how it was before? How laughable. She hurriedly replied, I'll compensate you in any way you want. Yin Na remained indifferent when she heard this. From the beginning until the end, her cold and indifferent gaze descended onto the liquid in the goblet, and her expression didn't change in the slightest. Lu Jingtian panicked even more as she hurriedly asked, Is 1 million enough? 1 million? Yin Na's lips curled up as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. How cheap? Lu Jingtian also felt that the price was too low, so she asked, How about 10 million? Is 10 million enough to make it up to you? If it's not enough, as long as you ask, I'll definitely gather enough for you. Miss Lu is so generous. Yin Na suddenly raised her eyes. Her gaze sharpened as she raised her hand and splashed the liquid in the wine glass onto her face. Lu Jingtian shrieked and struggled on the spot in fright. What is this? Sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid. She subconsciously thought that Yin Na had splashed some concentrated sulfuric acid on her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. However, after struggling for a while, she did not feel the intense corrosive pain that she had expected. Only then did she awkwardly calm down. She touched the slightly sticky liquid on her face and did not know what it was. In any case, it was not sulfuric acid as she had imagined. Chapter 2360. Lu Jingtian heaved a sigh of relief and calmed down. Sulfuric acid? Yin Na laughed. If you ask me, even if I splash 10 bottles of sulfuric acid on you, it won't be enough to vent the anger in my heart. You, calm down. Lu Jingtian tried to comfort her, but she did not know if she was comforting the person in front of her or herself. She naively thought that since the other party had found her, there should be room for negotiation. Since she could calmly sit in front of her and expose her identity, she probably would not do anything risky. Besides, although she was in a private room on the second floor and there was no one else around, it was still a public place. With so many people downstairs, she would definitely not do anything rash. Lu Jingtian suppressed her anger and asked humbly, What do I have to do for you to forgive me? Forgive you? Yin Na pondered for a moment before suddenly taking out a pack of cigarettes. She took one out and put it in her mouth. Then, she casually picked up a Zippo windproof lighter and lit it. Let me think about it. Lu Jingtian looked at her in trepidation. She looked at the cigarette in the other's mouth, which was flickering, and then at the lighter in her hand. She was wearing a pair of black gloves, which could vaguely be seen on her wrist, covering a long scar. It seemed to be cut by a metal hook, which was why she was using the gloves to cover it. The flame of the lighter flickered and swayed, just like her flustered heartbeat at this moment. Why don't? Yana suddenly approached her and smiled sinisterly. How about using your face to exchange for it? What do you mean? Lu Jingtian's eyes widened as she asked nervously. Yana stood up and pretended to leave as she played with the lighter. Her gaze followed the other's movements as her heart beat like thunder. Yana took a deep puff of her cigarette and suddenly stopped playing with it. She lowered her head and looked at her coldly. Lu Jingtian, from tonight onward, our grudges are settled. Just as Lu Jingtian was feeling perplexed by her nonsensical words, she saw that the other had already turned around and was about to leave. Just as she was about to calm down, she saw Yun Na make a move. The lighter in her hand flew toward her in a strange parabola. I'm returning it to you. She threw out these words and left. Lu Jingtian yelped in shock. She subconsciously reached out to catch the lighter, but the moment she did so, she retracted her hand from the heat of the flame. The lighter landed on her body. When the open flame came into contact with her body, which was drenched in an unknown liquid, it ignited unstoppably and engulfed her in raging flames. Ah! By the time Lu Jingtian came to her senses, she had already sprung up from her seat and flailed her arms about. Little did she know that the more she flailed, the bigger the fire became. The pain of the raging fire burning his flesh gnawed at his heart. Help! 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 Yuna ignored the burning man behind her. She put on her hat, stuffed her hands into her pockets, and walked down the stairs leisurely. Without looking back, she disappeared through the door. At this moment, loud and noisy music suddenly came from downstairs. Chapter 2361. The people on the dance floor were waving their hands and twisting their bodies to the music. The DJ, with his headphones on, hit the disc, and the high music pushed the atmosphere in the bar to its climax. Help! It's so hot. It's so hot. It's so hot. She struggled frantically, but no matter how she screamed for help, it was all in vain. Her cries were drowned out by the crowd's clamor. Her heart was shrouded in fear and despair. She rolled on the spot for a while, but she still could not put out the fire on her body. The fire burned her clothes and skin all over her body. The smell of burnt skin assailed her nostrils. Don't! Who's going to save me? Lu Jingtian cried and screamed as she rolled back and forth. In the end, she accidentally rolled down the stairs. Rumble! The strange sound quickly attracted some people's attention. Some people were sitting closer to the stairs, so they quickly noticed the strange movement coming from the stairs. When they looked over, they were immediately shocked by the shocking scene. Fire! Fire! At first, they could not see clearly what the fire was. They only knew that it was on fire, but when someone took a closer look, he exclaimed, "There's someone inside." I saw it too. She's on fire. Someone come quickly. Get some water. At this point, Lu Jingtian was engulfed by the fire. Like a ball of fire, she rolled down the stairs and knocked her head on the steps. She fainted for a moment, but the pain of being burned by the fire soon woke her up and she howled wantonly in despair. Save me, save me. No one responded. The atmosphere in the bar was at its climax. A small number of people were alarmed, but it did not attract much attention. A man cried for help for a long time, but no one responded. Most people were numbed by the alcohol and the loud music, so they did not hear his voice, which was drowned out by the rhythm and drums. It was only when the fire grew bigger and bigger that the wooden walls were ablaze and smoke spread that more and more people noticed this scene. It's on fire! It's on fire! Run! The DJ, who was standing on the stage, saw this scene. He immediately cut to the music, put on his headset, and called the bar's manager. The manager hurried over and immediately tried to calm down to evacuate the crowd. Some customers, who were still sober, were frightened by the fire and ran for the door in panic. For a moment, the scene was in chaos. The crowd swarmed to the door like a swarm of bees, like an ebbing tide. 10 minutes later, the manager came with a foam fire extinguisher and walked to the fire. The fire extinguisher had been in disrepair for a long time, and the bolt was rusty, so the manager could not pull it off. "Quick, quick, call the police. Call the ambulance." 10 minutes later, the police drove over. At this moment, the fire had been extinguished and the crowd had been evacuated. The huge bar was empty. All the staff stood 3 meters away from the scene, looking at the corner of the stairs, a group of charred people. No one dared to approach. Chapter 2362. The manager of the bar immediately said, "Yes, yes. They're not there yet? They're not there yet. At this time, the road at the entrance should be blocked. What's going on?" The manager of the bar was also at a loss. He said helplessly, "I don't know. I'm also confused now. I heard from the staff that someone was on fire. I immediately evacuated the crowd and organized the staff to put out the fire, but the fire was very big. They only put out 5 minutes ago, and the person is unconscious. We didn't dare to go near her. No one touched her." The police frowned, feeling that the situation was very strange. He took a look at the victim's condition. Her entire body was char-black. It was a shocking sight. How big was the fire to be able to burn her to such a state? Soon, the ambulance rushed over and hurriedly carried her to the burn hospital. Yin Shishir was on night watch at the hospital. She sat in the corridor and quietly read the script that Qin Zhou had sent over. This script was a new drama that Qin Zhou had accepted for her. It was an urban idol drama that was adapted from a best-selling novel. This time, she was directly chosen as the female lead by the director and investors and landed in the cast. The producer, Fang Zheng, had taken a fancy to her current popularity. In addition, her temperament and appearance were compatible with the female lead. Hence, he had directly decided to cast her. Before this, the producer and Qin Zhou had discussed and agreed on the remuneration. Then, Qin Zhou directly sent the script over. Yin Shishir knew that such an opportunity did not come easily. She had just debuted and did not have many works. However, with The Green Apple, she became famous overnight. The movie became a dark horse among the many movies that were released during the Lunar New Year. She was proud of herself and unexpectedly won the box office crown. Other than the box office appeal of Lin Fengtian and Gu Xingze as the female lead, Yin Shishir's superb acting skills could not go unnoticed. Her innocent appearance and exciting performance were remarkable. It had attracted her a lot of popularity and many die-hard fans. This was not the only reason why she was directly chosen this time. The current entertainment industry had a bad atmosphere. Many television dramas were crudely made and the so-called sky-high investments were actually made. Most of the money went into the pockets of the lead actors. In order to earn more money, some female celebrities had to deal with several production teams at the same time. As a result, the results of the filming were inferior. There was even a period drama that had special effects throughout the entire process. Other than a few positive scenes, most of the scenes were done by stunt doubles. With The Green Apple, Yin Shishir shot to fame overnight. At the same time, her professionalism won her over in the industry. In addition, Huan Yu had spent a lot of resources on her. She made a stunning appearance at the Fashion Week and won so many awards at the film festival that her hands went limp. She became a popular starlet and a popular idol. Qin Zhou's pay was 500,000 per episode. Compared to Yang Mi's 1 million per episode and Lin Ji's 800,000 per episode, this was a fair price. Although Yin Shishir only had one movie released, the investors also took a fancy to her role in Lethal Beauty, which was about to be broadcasted. It was bound to bring her popularity to another level, and her potential was limitless. It was said that Qin Zhou had also heard a rumor. Initially, Lin Ji had taken a liking to this movie. She was willing to lower her salary and even used a lot of methods to snatch the role from her. Even after using a lot of connections, she still couldn't get the female lead role. Chapter 2363. The director insisted that the female lead role must be played by Yin Shishir. Because of this, Lin Ji was very unhappy. However, on second thought, the scenes of Lethal Beauty had already been completed and it was in post-production. Because it was a long-running drama, they decided to broadcast it while it was being produced. The weekly drama won the golden egg of a first-tier satellite channel. 3 episodes were broadcast consecutively every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Lin Ji thought to herself that Yun Shishir's popularity might not rise even if she played the evil female lead role in the drama. On the other hand, she might be able to reach a higher level with Lethal Beauty. When that time came, she would not have to worry about not getting good scripts. Yun Shishir read the script and heard from Qinzhou that the male lead was in contact with Gu Xingze. The supporting male lead was tailor-made for Hua Jin, so he had already been confirmed. Gu Xingze, he had been banned for a while. Apparently, Huan Yu had lifted the ban. When Yun Shishir heard the news, she felt very conflicted. When she thought about how Gu Xingze would have to act with him in the same scene, she could not help but feel awkward. Qinzhou said that the reason why the investors chose Gu Xingze was because of the popularity of the lucky couple on Weibo. Many movie fans had been poisoned by the green apple and were hoping that the golden couple would work together again. Lin Ji and Gu Xingze had formed an imaginary couple called the Love Diary. Although they had only recorded a few episodes, many fans supported them online. However, because of the ban, the show did not continue. After that, the other imaginary couples were mediocre. Movie fans strongly hoped that the lucky couple would appear on screen again. After the ban was lifted, the production team contacted Yun Shishir and said that they wanted to continue recording the show. However, Yun Shishir politely declined. Therefore, the investors had their eyes on the potential market of the lucky couple and were now negotiating with Gu Xingze. The influence of the green apple was not to be underestimated. Although the movie had already been taken offline, its popularity was still there. This gave Lin Fengtian a big surprise. After intense voting online, Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze became the hottest on-screen couple. Yun Shishir focused on the script, tucking her bangs behind her ears from time to time. Shishir. When Yun Shishir heard someone call her name, she looked up in confusion and saw Ji Lin looking at her in surprise from the end of the corridor. Director Ji? Yun Shishir, who was in the man's eyes, was surprised. Ji Lin smiled. It's so late and you're still in the hospital? Keeping vigil for Dad? She nodded and asked, Why are you here? Something happened to one of my artists, so I'm here to deal with it. What happened? Ji Lin paused for a moment before shaking his head. I received a call saying that Lu Jingtian was injured in a fire, so I rushed over. She's still in the operating room now, and her condition isn't optimistic. Burned by fire? Yun Shishir furrowed her brows in surprise. How did this happen? Did something happen? Ji Lin shook his head, looking equally confused. I was resting at home when the police called and told me to inform Jingtian's family that she's in the hospital with burns. I'll have to go to the police station later to find out what happened. Chapter 2364. It was too strange. It did not seem to be a peaceful year recently. First, her father was splashed with sulfuric acid, followed by Lu Jingtian being burned and sent to the emergency room. It was really unbelievable. After exchanging some pleasantries, Ji Lin left in a hurry. Yun Shishir sat on the bench, no longer in the mood to read the script. She stood at the door of the ward and stared blankly at Yun Yeqing, who was lying on the bed with furrowed brows. Gong Jie quickly rushed over. According to their agreement, he would take over at 1 in the morning. Yun Shishir would go back to rest and take over at 9 in the morning. Someone would take care of her during the day, so she did not have to worry. At 1 o'clock, Gong Jie rushed over with supper for her and reminded her to go back and rest early. Yun Shishir nodded stiffly. Just as she was about to leave, Gong Jie pulled her back. Wait, HM? Yun Shishir turned around, looking confused. What's wrong? Gong Jie was worried. You look absent-minded today. Is there something on your mind? Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment before replying. Nothing. I just accepted a script and am immersed in the plot. Gong Jie smiled. You're so dedicated to your work? Not at all. He walked up to her and planted a kiss on her forehead. Good night kiss. He only had this opportunity because Muyaja was not around. It was really not easy. Yin Shishir smiled. Gong Jie reminded her again. It's already so late. Put the script aside and go back to sleep early, okay? Okay. I know. Thank you for your hard work. It's not hard at all to serve my sister. Yin Shishir smiled, and then turned to leave the floor where Yun Yecheng was. She did not return to the hotel to rest immediately, though. Instead, she went to the emergency room. Lu Jingtian's family members had already rushed over on the bench outside the emergency room. 7 to 8 of them sat there with heavy expressions. A middle-aged man impatiently paced back and forth outside the ward, looking extremely anxious. Judging from his flustered expression, he must be Lu Jingtian's father. What the hell is going on? Our Tian, how did she get burned out of nowhere? The 2 young girls beside her hurriedly comforted her. Auntie, don't worry. Jingtian will be fine. Heaven helps the worthy. God will definitely bless her. Tian called me and told me that she wanted to have a drink with you guys. Were you there when it happened? No, another woman said. When we arrived, the bar had already been cleared. There were people guarding the door, so we couldn't get in. We thought that something had happened. Just as we were about to leave, we saw the ambulance and found out what had happened. We saw a charred person being carried out of the bar, but we didn't recognize that it was Tian. It was only when no one picked up the phone that I heard from the bar's employees that the person who was burned was a TV star that I realized it. I chased after the ambulance and rushed to the hospital. The person was already in the emergency room. The strangest thing is that there was no fire in the bar. I heard that when Tian was found, her body was on fire, but there was no fire anywhere else. I don't know why. Lu Jingtian's mother was even more heartbroken when she heard this. Chapter 2365. Even if she's saved, what can we do? How is Tian going to face the fire in the future? Tian loves to look pretty. If she's disfigured, I can't imagine it. Lu Jingtian's mother was deeply worried. Her eyes were red and swollen. It was obvious that she had been crying. Plastic surgery is so advanced nowadays. Even if she's disfigured, she can still undergo skin grafting. I heard from the doctor that Tian's body was badly burned, so she definitely won't be able to keep her looks. I'm just worried that there won't be a single unscathed spot on her body. Yin Shishir furrowed her brows. Just as she was in a daze, she vaguely noticed a flash of light outside the window. She walked to the window and looked downstairs, only to find a swarm of media reporters squatting at the hospital entrance with their cameras raised. They were trying to break through the security and sneak into the hospital to report first-hand news. Such reporters had a keen sense of smell. When they heard that something had happened to Jingtian, they swarmed over. How scary! How could these reporters be so indifferent when she was still in the emergency room? Now that the reporters were blocking the entrance, she could not leave rashly. If she was caught by them, she did not know what these unscrupulous media would report with additional details. Yun Shishir returned to the ward. Gong Jie was a little surprised to see her back. Didn't you go back to the hotel? There are reporters outside the hospital. I can't get out for a while. Reporters? Gong Jie frowned. He suddenly stood up and walked to the window to take a look. He was shocked by the terrifying scene at the entrance. Why are there so many reporters? There are probably reporters squatting at the back entrance, too. The entire hospital is surrounded by them now. Gong Jie was puzzled. Where did so many reporters come from? Did something happen? Yin Shishir replied. An artist from our company was burned and is now in the emergency room. I heard that the burn area is very large. Burned by the fire? Gong Jie was not concerned about this matter. He raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled. It seems that you won't be able to leave tonight. It's good to accompany you. Do you want supper? Gong Jie asked. I bought some supper. I forgot to ask you. Yin Shishir glanced at it. Gong Jie had bought some beef vermicelli soup and fried dumplings. At this time, besides barbecue, there was only these. Alas, when she saw the charred dumplings in the packaging, she was reminded of the tragic scene of Lu Jingtian being burned by the fire. She lost all her appetite and felt nauseous for some reason. I'm not hungry. Not hungry, Gong Jie teased. Could it be that you're not eating because you're trying to lose weight? Yin Shishir made up an excuse and said, I gained 2 pounds during the new year. Of course, I can't eat whatever I want. I thought elder sister had the physique of not getting fat no matter how much she eats. So, you're also afraid of getting fat. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. Yin Shishir sat up on the bench and held the script, but she couldn't read it at all. She was in a daze for a while. Her sixth sense told her that there must be a connection between the two incidents, which seemed unrelated, between Yun Yeqing and Lu Jingtian. However, it was just her sixth sense. She could not find any evidence or clues. It was just her sixth sense. At 3 in the morning, Ji Lin returned to the hospital. Lu Jingtian was still in the emergency room. He asked about the situation and went to the floor where Yun Shishir was. When Yun Shishir saw him, she immediately walked over worriedly and asked about the situation. Did you find out anything at the police station? Chapter 2366. The police retrieved the surveillance footage, but there's a blind spot in the private room on the second floor where Jingtian was. At the time of the incident, we could only see her on fire, but we don't know how it happened. However, there's a suspicious person in the surveillance footage. When a fire broke out, that person came down from upstairs and casually left the bar. The police suspect that this incident has something to do with that person, so they're still investigating. How did she catch on fire? After investigating the scene, we came to the conclusion that Jingtian was splashed with flammable liquid, and we also found the remains of a lighter. Jilin gave her a rough overview of the situation. After investigating the scene, the police concluded that the fire was not a coincidence based on the fragments of her clothes and the remains of the lighter found at the scene. They found a large amount of ethanol in the remnants of the flammable liquid on the fragments of her clothes. The lighter was a Zippo lighter. An open flame directly ignited the ethanol, and the fire quickly spread throughout her body. Ethanol? Yes. When exposed to an open flame, it will burn rapidly. Coupled with the fact that she was wearing black stockings, the fire spread even faster. Yin Shishir was quite taken aback by this. Isn't this murder? We can't conclude yet, but the suspicion is very high. What about that person? Yun Shishir asked anxiously. Did the surveillance footage capture the person's face? Ji Lin shook his head. No, that person was wearing a cap, so we couldn't see anything clearly. He was dressed very plainly and didn't have any distinctive features. If he were thrown into a crowd, he wouldn't attract attention even if he walked right in front of you. Right now, the police can only collect fingerprints from a scene. If we can get any clues from the lighter, we might be able to make some progress. Yin Shishir nodded. What about Lu Jingtian? Is she still in the emergency room? Yes. He paused for a moment before saying, she's still in the emergency room. We don't know if she'll survive. Is it that serious? Yin Shishir was reminded of Yun Yeqing's condition in the emergency room. Every minute and every second was torturous. It's too cruel. If it's really murder, why use such a cruel method? It must be very painful to be burned like that. The doctor said that 85% of Jingtian's body was burned. This is just a preliminary estimate. It could be more. 85%. What did it mean to have such a large area of burns? He had already been burnt to a crisp. Yin Shishir shuddered at the thought of the cruel acts of the murderer. Ji Lin said, When I came in, I saw a lot of reporters waiting at the door. I'm afraid you won't be able to leave tonight. Those reporters are always the first to hear the news. The competition in the media industry is fierce now. Coupled with the fact that the market has been declining over the years for the sake of traffic and click-through rates, those reporters are dying to get first-hand reports. They're not giving up. Ji Lin added, Sure, you have to be careful too. The company will also send more people to protect you. I have to rush back to the company right away to hold a meeting. Now that Jingtian is in such a situation, we have to do some public relations as soon as possible. Yes, be careful on the road. After Ji Lin left, Yin Shishir sat on the bench with a gloomy expression. No one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 2367. After Ji Lin left, Yin Shishir sat on the bench with a gloomy look on her face. No one knew what she was thinking about. Seeing this, Gong Jie quietly picked up a fried dumpling and fed it to her. Yin Shishir was shocked. Suppressing her discomfort, She swallowed the fried dumpling and glared at him. Hey, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? Yin Shishir pursed her lips but did not say anything. Gong Jie rubbed her head. She's just an irrelevant person. There's no need to let your imagination run wild because of her. I just have a bad feeling. Don't let your imagination run wild. Gong Jie pulled her into his arms and patted her shoulder gently. Don't worry. With me around, no one will hurt you. Shao, Jess, do you remember that I mentioned to you that I have an adoptive mother? She and my father have a daughter called Yana. I don't really remember her name, but I heard you mention it. After a pause, Gong Jie was a little surprised. Why did you mention her all of a sudden? Last year, she and her adoptive mother went missing. Gong Jie's eyelids twitched violently. Not long ago, you mentioned this matter to him as well. That was when Yun Yeqing was first sent to the hospital. Yu had once revealed to him about Li Qin and Yun Na. That little girl also had a gloomy look on her face. The disappearance of these two people was Yu's doing. Although he did not mention how he got rid of the mother and daughter, he only said that he threw them into the sea like trash. The process was very detailed, but he did not know the details. At the end of last year, Li Qin's body was salvaged from the sea by fishermen. Her body had been submerged in the sea for a long time, and fishes had pecked at it. Yu admitted that he felt a strong sense of guilt. Back then, when he gave the order to throw them into the sea, he was in a state of uncontrollable emotions. Therefore, he had already forgotten what kind of demonic barrier he was under at that time, to actually be so ruthless. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't remember what he had said or done. Yu didn't know that at that time, there was another dark personality hidden in his body. It was hatched after a long period of darkness in his childhood. That incident was just a fuse that triggered the darkest side of his personality. What he did was no longer within his control. He didn't know that he had such a cruel and callous side to him. He still had lingering fears. At that time, when he found out from Li Dongxiang about what Yun Na had done to his mommy and how she had persecuted her, Yu was instantly enraged and completely turned evil. However, when he realized that such a terrifying demon was hiding in his body, he could not help but feel uneasy. Uncle, is it possible for a person to escape after being thrown into the sea? Yu had asked. He vaguely suspected that Yun Yeqing's incident had something to do with Yun Na. It was not because there was evidence to go by. It was because of his subconscious sixth sense that Yun Na was not dead. She was still alive in this world, lurking in some dark corner and taking revenge on them one by one. He did not suspect Yun Na at first. However, that day, when Yu was accompanying Yun Yeqing in the hospital, he actually vaguely dreamed of Yun Na's name when he was unconscious. Nana, don't stop. Chapter 2368. Yun Yeqing's vocal cords were damaged, so it was difficult for him to make sound. Perhaps it was because of a nightmare that he kept calling out Yun Na's name in his dreams, but his hoarse voice woke Yin Tianyu up. Other than this possibility, he could not think of anyone who would do such a thing to his father. Hence, Yu had been secretly investigating this matter for the past few days. Muyaja also instructed the police to investigate Yun Na's whereabouts as soon as possible. Before this, Yun Na had been registered as a missing person, but once she was listed as a missing person, it proved that the police were helpless and could not find any trace of her. There had been no news of her all this while. News of Lu Jingtian's injury spread like wildfire. More and more media outlets gathered outside the hospital to follow up on the incident. Television stations, the internet, and media outlets were all reporting on the progress of this matter. While Yin Shishir was browsing Weibo, Lu Jingtian's burn had become the top trending topic. However, the hospital was heavily guarded, and Lu Jingtian's father was not someone to be trifled with. With his daughter's safety unknown, how could he allow those hateful media outlets to disturb him? Hence, he hired bodyguards to guard the entrance. Not even a fly or a mosquito could enter, let alone a living person. Many media outlets' methods were impossible to guard against. Some even disguised themselves as patients or family members to sneak into the hospital. He also sent people to set up a perimeter a few meters away from the operating room to prevent anyone from getting close. Huan Yu's artist Lu Jingtian, accidentally set herself on fire on the night of February 16th, causing 85% of her body to be burned. She is still in the emergency room and is still in critical condition. According to the doctor, her vocal cords are severely damaged and she can't speak. There's a possibility that she might lose her voice. On the night of the incident, the scene captured by the bar's surveillance cameras has already spread on various major websites and entered everyone's sight. It's been 3 hours since the incident, and Lu Jingtian is still in the emergency room. There are endless discussions about this accident, and all kinds of speculations are coming one after another. Some netizens suspect that there are many suspicious points in this matter and that it might not be an accident. Reporters rushed to the bar where the incident happened and interviewed the bar's manager. He said that, according to the surveillance footage, Lu Jingtian came to the bar alone at around 11 p.m. and went straight to the private room on the second floor. As the private room was in a blind spot to the surveillance cameras, it was impossible to know what happened within 20 minutes of the incident. About 15 minutes later, the surveillance footage showed Lu Jingtian rolling and struggling on the floor with her whole body on fire. No one in the bar, though. It was only after 10 minutes of her cries for help were heard that her cries for help, and the fire was finally extinguished by the staff. Yin Shishir kept flipping through the reports until a video popped up. She hesitated for a moment before clicking on the video. In the video, she saw a flash of fire coming from a private room on the second floor. A person covered in flames fell at the staircase, rolling and struggling. At the same time, in the bottom left corner, a man in black casually left the bar. Yin Shishir was taken aback. Chapter 2369. Imagine a normal adult with a person on fire behind him, screaming and struggling for help. In the hall on the first floor, perhaps there were many young people who were immersed in the moving music on the dance floor, forgetting themselves and not noticing the abnormal situation on the second floor. Given how close this person was to Lu Jingtian, it was only natural for him to notice the fire behind him at such a short distance. However, he walked down the stairs calmly and left the bar calmly. It was this extraordinary calmness that made people shudder. This matter, it's related to him. For some reason, this thought popped up in Yin Shishir's mind. This person is too suspicious. The complete CCTV footage was still circulating online. Yin Shishir clicked on it and saw that from the time Lu Jingtian walked into the bar to the time the fire started, only about 20 minutes had elapsed. Although the seat was a blind spot, Yin Shishir clearly noticed that the fire started all of a sudden and did not burn gradually. Ji Lin said that the police found traces of alcohol on the pieces of clothing at the scene. Alcohol? What exactly? This was not an accident. It was premeditated murder. Perhaps it was not murder. The person did not want to kill Lu Jingtian, but let her suffer the pain of disfigurement for the rest of her life. Yin Shishir's eyes lit up as she furrowed her brows. In her shock, she could not help but loosen her grip on the phone, causing it to fall to the ground with a thud. By the time she regained her senses, she was already drenched in cold sweat. Yin Yeching, Lu Jingtian, Yin Yeching. Her father and Lu Jingtian were attacked one after another in almost the same way. It was definitely not a coincidence that they were attacked in the same way. The method of the crime was similar, and that person did not come with the intention of murder, but cruelly wanted to inflict unbearable pain on them. It had only been a few days since Yin Yeching was attacked by acid, and Lu Jingtian had also met with an accident. There seemed to be no connection between the two, but she keenly sensed the similarities between them. This person's hatred for the two was monstrous. Yin Shishir immediately recalled the CCTV footage that was released by the media. On the night of Huan Yu's annual gala, Yin Na was forced to the corridor by Lu Jingtian. Her face was then slashed with an eyebrow shaver and disfigured. Yin Na must have hated Lu Jingtian to the core. Similarly, Yin Na also harbored hatred toward Yin Yeching. It's Yin Na. A shocking thought popped up in her mind. Yin Shishir's breathing became uneven as she sucked in a breath. The *M in it. I should have thought of this. The connection between the two is Yin Na's. Oh no, flustered, Yin Shishir's phone. Phone's phone. 10 seconds later, the call was connected, and Yu Yu's sleepy voice came through. Mommy. She was relieved to hear her son's voice. Yu Yu, are you sleeping? Where's Daddy? He's in the study. Yu Yu asked curiously. Mommy, it's so late. Why are you calling me? Is something the matter? Nothing. I'm just worried about you and Xiaoi Chen. Is the balcony door locked from the inside when you sleep at night? It's all locked. Then, Chapter 2370. The gas has been turned off, and the door to the back garden has been locked. Mommy, don't worry. Okay, that's good. Yin Shir finally calmed down. Mommy, are you still in the hospital? Yes. Yu Yu said gently. Now that Grandpa's condition has stabilized, Mommy doesn't have to work too hard. Rest early. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Yin Shir held the phone tightly as her breathing gradually calmed down. Gong Jia walked over and handed a cup of coffee over. Yin Shir took it, but her gaze was a little absent-minded. Sister, what's wrong? Why do you look uneasy? Yin Shir said quietly. It hasn't been peaceful recently, and it's making me feel flustered. Gong Jia was silent for a moment, thinking that it was because she still had lingering fears after seeing the man who had been burned to such a state. He said, in this world, unfortunate things happen every day. Every minute, every second, there are countless accidents happening. Sometimes, life is strong, and sometimes it's fragile. It can't withstand a single blow, and in a short moment, it's gone. And living is not to fear the end of the world, but to welcome tomorrow. In those war-torn areas, the flames of war were incessant, and smoke filled the air. Many refugees lived under the ruins of the bombardment, and it was difficult for them to survive, especially in African countries. When he was young, he had followed his father's team to Uganda. For more than 20 years, the rebel army of Uganda, the Lord's Resistance Army, had been in constant conflict with the government army in order to overthrow the government. He had watched as a little girl crawled into a pile of corpses to search for food and finally died in a grenade attack. He had also seen those refugees who had lost their homes shovel the soil on the ground into their mouths. This world was unfair from the moment you open your eyes. The weak were prey to the strong. Instead of fearing the darkness, it was better to become stronger and more dazzling. Only then could you protect the people you wanted to protect. Xiao Jia. It's rare to hear such profound words come out of your mouth. Yin Shir could not help laughing. Gong Jia muttered unhappily. You're the one who's always treating me like a child. Who asked you to be so mischievous when you were young? You've already left a deep impression on me. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, but each had their own thoughts. Gong Jia knew that Yin Shir had something on her mind, but she did not mention it to him. This was because, in her eyes, he was still a child. Moreover, she did not understand his identity and background. She did not know that the Gong family was very powerful. The Gong family was cruel, which was why he didn't want to mention the Gong family. Gong Jia silently glanced at Yin Shir. Seeing that she was troubled, he narrowed his eyes. Sis, you haven't changed at all. Gong Jia leaned back. Do you remember when you were young? You were wronged outside and came back crying. When you reached the door, you wiped away your tears and entered. You never told me what you were wronged or what was on your mind. Yin Shir pursed her lips. You were so impulsive when you were young. If I told you, wouldn't you beat the child who provoked me until he was crippled? So what? Chapter 2371. Yin Shir was momentarily at a loss for words. Gong Jia's lips suddenly curled into a smile. You're always keeping your worries to yourself. It makes you feel lonely. With that, he turned his head away and took a sip of his coffee with a deep look in his eyes. Yin Shir lowered her head in a daze, at a loss for what to do. Early in the morning, Lu Jingtian was still not out of danger. Many media outlets had already published their articles online. Yin Shir browsed through them one by one. Morning news. Huanyu Entertainment's artist Lu Jingtian suffered serious burns in a bar accident. A reporter at the hospital reported that Huanyu's famous actress, Lu Jingtian, suffered burns all over her body in an accident at a bar last night. She was sent to the burn hospital for treatment. According to preliminary reports, her life is still in danger due to the large area and severity of the burns. Chengguang Entertainment. Lu Jingtian's burn area is 85%. Her life is still in danger, and she might be disfigured. Currently, the famous actress is still in the intensive care unit. According to the bar manager, Lu Jingtian came to the bar alone and went straight to the second floor. 20 minutes later, she rolled down the stairs, covered in flames, and struggled to call for help. It was reported that she was wearing a chemical fiber outfit at the time of the accident. The fire spread quickly. The bar's emergency response was not timely. By the time the fire was extinguished, she had already lost consciousness. Starlight News. Bar responds to Lu Jingtian's self-immolation incident, denies responsibility, and says that it was because the actress was in a surveillance camera's blind spot. There were no other customers on the second floor at the time, so the fire was not immediately discovered. The bar manager responded that the actress might have been playing with a lighter when the lighter leaked, but the fire spread all over her body in a few seconds. The bar staff put out the fire immediately, evacuated the crowd, and called the police for an ambulance. Huan Yu's official Weibo was silent, and there was no announcement so far. Many netizens left comments questioning, can a lighter really set the whole body on fire in an instant? Although her clothes are made of flammable material, it shouldn't spread all over her body in an instant. Shouldn't a normal person put out the fire or call for help in time when their clothes are on fire? However, looking at the surveillance camera, the fire spread all over her body in an instant. She didn't even have a chance to save herself. I don't believe that a lighter can set off such a big fire in an instant. The incident happened a few hours ago, and Huan Yu still hasn't made any statement. There's not even an announcement. What are they doing? Unless the clothes were splashed with gasoline or flammable liquid, they would only catch fire when exposed to an open flame. How scary. I heard that Lu Jingtian was badly burned, including her vocal cords. I don't know if she'll be able to speak in the future. At first, I thought it was suicide. But if it was really suicide, who would use such a cruel method? It's not like he's a follower of a cult. Moreover, who would purposely to the bars to commit suicide? I watched the video carefully. There's a person in black in it, but I can't tell if it's a man or a woman. When Lu Jingtian caught fire, he happened to be walking down from the second floor. He looked so calm that it's scary. It's hard not to link him to this incident. Could it be premeditated murder? The netizens discussed animatedly. Chapter 2372. Yin Shishir went back to the hotel to rest. When she woke up in the afternoon, the first thing she did was to grab her phone and open Weibo. Huan Yu's official Weibo had already made an announcement. Huan Yu Entertainment. To all our fans, we received a very unexpected piece of news last night. Lu Jingtian, the deer neck, was unfortunately burned in an accident at a bar with a friend last night. She is currently receiving treatment at the burn hospital. When the company received the news, they immediately rushed to the hospital to visit her. Her family members also rushed over. Even now, her life is still in danger and she is still undergoing emergency treatment. We can only pray silently that she can get through this life-threatening situation and recover as soon as possible. Let us pray for her and pray for her speedy recovery. Candle. This Weibo post was posted at 1 p.m. In just 2 hours, it was forwarded more than 100,000 times and left hundreds of thousands of comments. A group of keyboard warriors angrily scolded under the post. As a sign management company, they actually released an announcement 10 hours later than the other news outlets. Isn't their attitude too negligent? They didn't mention the outcome of this incident and just said that it was an accident. Gosh, is this really just an accident? For such a big company, their PR skills are just passable. They should at least briefly explain what happened, right? This announcement is really baffling. Yin Shishir put down her phone and suddenly made a call to Mu Yaja. When the call connected, Yin Shishir hurriedly said, "Do you remember that I have a sister called Yin Na?" "Yes. Can you help me check her whereabouts?" In the basement of the villa, Yin Na entered the room, took off her black clothes, and sat on the bed. She casually picked up the remote control on the bedside table and turned on the TV. The scene changed to the news channel. As expected, Lu Jingtian's accident was the talk of the town. Every TV station was vying to report it. Yuna leaned against the headboard coldly. How ironic. Yun Yeching, who had also met with an accident, was still lying in the hospital without the media's attention. As a public figure, Lu Jingtian, on the other hand, had caused quite a stir. Netizens were paying attention to her, and the media's tracking reports were all over the place. She casually picked up an apple, picked up a small knife from the drawer, and casually peeled it. A ghastly scar could be seen at the edge of his sleeve. It was obvious that it had been pierced deeply by some barb. Halfway through peeling, there was a knock on the door. Yuna glanced at the door. She stood up and walked over to open the door. A woman with heavy makeup stood outside the door. She was wearing a graceful and luxurious coat, and her eyes sized Yuna up. Yuna, you're really cool. You've caused such a big commotion all of a sudden. Yuna glanced at her, and there was finally a trace of expression on her cold face. With a faint smile, she turned sideways and welcomed her in. She seemed to be quite polite to this woman, but she didn't show much respect. Her attitude was neither cold nor warm. What about women? As if she was used to it, she walked into the room. This was the place that this woman had arranged for her. It was the basement of the villa. It used to be used as a wine cellar to store wine. Now, it was separated by a small room. She had arranged it simply for her to stay. Chapter 2373. The woman was obviously very displeased with Yun Na's actions last night. She closed the door and said coldly, I saw today's news. Yun Na nodded. Oh. The woman became angrier at her indifferent response. She sat on the sofa and raised her head to reprimand her. You're too reckless. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to do this? The TV behind them was showing Lu Jingtian's tracking report. The scene was switched to the hospital, and a reporter was explaining eloquently. According to reports, the scene of the incident was a mess. The police found traces of alcohol on Lu Jingtian's clothes. The initial suspicion is that the fire was caused by a flammable liquid coming into contact with an open flame. A lighter was found at the scene. The police are trying to get fingerprints from it. The relevant authorities are carrying out further investigation. The woman picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. Aren't you afraid of arousing her suspicion by being so reckless? Yuna raised an eyebrow, but did not say anything. Don't act on your own for the time being. Listen to my arrangements and find the right time to act. I'm worried that she'll be on her guard. If you act on your own at that time, don't be like a lamb in a tiger's den. I still have a use for you. Don't act in a fit of anger. Got it. The woman suddenly thought of something and ordered, Let me see your hands. Yuna did not say anything and stretched out her hands in front of the woman for her to take a look. Let me see your fingers. Yuna stretched out her 10 fingers. Out of the 10 fingers on her pair of hands, a part of her right thumb and left index finger had been cut off by a knife. The other fingers seemed to have been scalded by a high temperature and had already healed. However, one could vaguely imagine what kind of painful process she had gone through. As everyone knew, the shape, structure, and details of the fingerprints were very stable. Basically, they would not change for life. If fingerprints were collected at the scene of a crime, it would be a major breakthrough. Unless, of course, the dermis of the fingers were damaged and scarred. In order to prevent future trouble, Yuna had destroyed her fingerprints. Later, she could not bear the pain of the knife cutting her fingers. Her remaining fingers were all flattened with a soldering iron. Don't worry, I'll take all the necessary precautions as soon as I leave this door. Even if she destroyed her fingerprints, she would smear her fingers with 502 whenever she went out. They would definitely not leave any traces at the scene. Only then did the woman feel slightly more at ease. Lu Jingtian is currently in the hospital. Her accident has caused quite a stir in the country. During this period of time, don't show your face in public. Just in case, burn the clothes you're wearing. Understood. And the woman suddenly thought of something and looked at her faintly. Your father seemed to have seen your face and knew it was you. Yuna smiled expressionlessly. Yes, as far as I know, he is in the hospital. He has already passed the critical period and his life is saved. Why didn't you kill him? What? Don't tell me that you're soft-hearted and can't bear to do it? No, Yuna said fiercely. He deserves to die. Even if he dies 10,000 times, it won't be enough. Chapter 2374. The woman said disapprovingly, Yun Yeching is a scourge. He's like a ticking time bomb. Something will go wrong sooner or later. You should have done more cleanly back then. I understand what you mean. Oomph. But now's not the time. Yun Sure has people watching over him in a hospital. There's no chance at all. You'll only make a mistake if you act rashly. It's fine. It won't be too late to act after the alert is lifted. Yes, the woman sneered. I won't allow you to make any mistakes. Nah, I'm keeping you because you're still useful. And your greatest value is that no one will realize that you're still alive. For now on, you're not allowed to do what you did yesterday a second time. Last night, Yina acted rashly without any prior notice. She was furious. At this critical juncture, if there was even the slightest mistake, there would be no hope of redemption. Yina nodded. I understand. I'll be careful. All right, I won't stay any longer. Don't go out for the next few days. If you need anything, just call this number. Someone will send it to you. After saying that, the woman threw a business card on the bedside table, stood up, and left gracefully in her high heels. The door closed again. Yina locked the door and returned to bed. She turned on the television and watched the surveillance footage on the screen. The TV station had deliberately circled the figure in black and analyzed it repeatedly. There were different opinions. She glanced at it and suddenly curled her lips into a cold smile, revealing a row of white teeth. Her smile was sinister and strange. In the past few days, Yun Yeching's body had gradually recovered. The infection had stabilized, and he had safely passed the critical stage. This week, he would undergo his third skin transplant surgery. Other than preserving his eyelids and eyeballs, some functional skin grafts could at least restore his appearance to a certain extent if the situation was optimistic. He had severe burns all over his body, and his face was disfigured. The hospital could only use skin grafts to transplant the skin from his buttocks to his face for the first stage of cosmetic restoration. Yun Yeching had been in a coma. He woke up intermittently a few times, but he could not open his mouth or even eat smoothly. He could only rely on nutrient fluids to sustain himself. Yun Sure was allowed to enter the ward to accompany her. As soon as she stepped into the ward, she saw her father covered in white ointment. His face was pitch black like a cracked wall. His skin was peeling badly, and he looked terrible. She felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. During the night watch, she was reading the script, but she couldn't calm down. Whenever Yun Yeching was unconscious, he would let out a painful and broken sound from his throat, which was heart-wrenching. However, his vocal cords had been burned, so he couldn't make any sound other than a faint gasp. The pain of being corroded by sulfuric acid was not something an ordinary person could imagine. Even with a few injections of painkillers, it was difficult for him to sleep soundly. Yun Sure could only sit by the side, feeling helpless. Living like this was really embarrassing and painful. How could that person be so cruel? There were a few times when Yun Yeching was in so much pain that he let out sobbing sounds as tears streamed down his face. Yun Sure could only bear with the pain and quickly wipe his tears away to prevent them from flowing into his wound. She couldn't drink water for the time being, so she could only dip a cotton swab in water and gently apply it to her lips. Chapter 2375. Yun Sure said, Uncle, you don't have to come all the time. Your legs aren't good, so you'll only be anxious if you come. I'll take care of Dad. There are also 4 nurses taking turns to look after him during the day, so you don't have to worry. Yun Yeho sighed. I know that I'm a cripple who can't even move properly, so I'll only be a hindrance if I come, but I'm thinking that I can at least help a little when he wakes up and you're not around. Yun Sure said helplessly. What do you mean by a cripple? Uncle, aren't you being too serious? That's the truth. Yun Yeho tugged at the corner of his lips, looking somewhat helpless. After a moment of silence, he smiled and said, The truth is, you don't have to worry about me. After so many years, I'm used to it. I can take care of myself. Yun Sure did not know what to do with him, so she did not say anything more. In the past few days, the number of media reporters camping outside the hospital had lessened. Compared to the army of reporters who had previously camped outside the hospital's entrance, More than half of those despicable reporters had left when they realized that they could not get any news. The remaining few were still camping outside the hospital's entrance, hoping to get some big news or insider information. Lu Jingtian's life was saved after the emergency treatment. Similar to Yun Yeqing, her vocal cords were severely burned, so it was likely that she would not be able to speak coherently in the future. Fortunately, at least the patient was saved. During the treatment, there was a shortage of blood bags. Lu Jingtian's blood type was not considered rare, but the blood bank was in a state of emergency. Many enthusiastic netizens rushed to the hospital to donate blood and cheer her on. No matter what, her life was saved. After coming out of the emergency room, Huanyu's official Weibo updated its status to inform the public of Lu Jingtian's current situation. It also expressed some official words, such as thanking the fans for their concern and the kindness from all walks of life. Ever since Huanyu's official Weibo posted this announcement, the other artistes in the company spontaneously reposted it to encourage and cheer her on. Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian, and most of Huanyu's artistes sent their blessings. How many of these blessings came from the bottom of their hearts, though? Most of them were pompous and superficial greetings. The so-called support was mostly insincere. How many of them were sincerely praying for Lu Jingtian? Lu Jingtian was usually Vine's standout in the company, so she was not very popular. Many people were secretly happy when they found out that she was disfigured. This was especially true for a female star who had recently been snatched from the lead role by Lu Jingtian. She was so happy that she did not know what to do. This was retribution from the heavens. Of course, he could only keep these thoughts in his heart. But at this time, who would dare to add insult to injury? This was a critical juncture. Lu Jingtian's burn incident had caused a sensation all over the country. The more they were at this juncture, the more they had to be mindful of their words and actions. There were many keyboard warriors on the internet. If you were not sincere enough, your fans would definitely accuse you of being cold, heartless, or cruel. Yin Shishir was innocently implicated. For the past few days, Yin Shishir had been taking care of Yun Yeqing at the hospital. She did everything by herself, no matter how big or small, and thus neglected the latest news about Lu Jingtian on Weibo. Many fans saw that the other artists of Huanyu had posted on Weibo to express their concern, but Yin Shishir did not. They started to question her indifference. Chapter 2376. Qin Zhou logged into her Weibo account and posted a post on her behalf to express his concern. However, even though he released it in time, the fans didn't buy it. Lu Jingtian's injury is so serious. The other artistes in the company immediately posted their concern on Weibo. Why did you only post it now? You're too cold. She's your colleague, after all. Isn't it too cold for you to pay attention to this matter so late? Seeing that their idol was being attacked, Yin Shishir's die-hard fans immediately retaliated in the comment section of Weibo. Aya, why didn't I realize that she had so many fans in the past? Now that she's in trouble, all of you are pretending to be her fans. Do you think you're the Virgin Mary, standing on the high ground to criticize others? That's right. Why didn't I see you guys as her fans in the past? Now that she's in trouble, you're pretending to be the Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary be asterisk cheese. What makes you think that you have to post on Weibo to express your concern? You're so pretentious and hypocritical. Lu Jingtian isn't the country's leader or director. There are so many innocent and unfortunate people every day. Does Shishir have to post on Weibo to express her concern for each and every one of them? What a joke. If she has the time to care so much about a celebrity, she might as well put more focus on her parents. Lu Jingtian has so many scandals. Does she think that she can clear her name just because she's injured? Hee hee. Just as Yin Shishir's Weibo was in a heated debate, some observant fans noticed the abnormality in her latest post. Shishir doesn't usually use this phone, right? Why is it displayed as a VOA client? That's right. Isn't Shishir using the phone she's endorsing? When one posted a status on Weibo, the phone brand's client would be displayed. As Yin Shishir was endorsing a phone brand, according to the advertiser's request, she had to use the brand's latest phone in public places, especially online portals. Some nosy fans followed the clues and found Qin Zhou's Weibo. After comparing the client logo displayed, they immediately said, "This Weibo post isn't posted by Yun Shishir herself. I think it's probably her manager who used his own phone to log in to her Weibo account and post it." At this moment, the flames of war erupted. Many fans accused Yun Shishir of being cold and indifferent. Even when she posted a Weibo status to express her concern for the victim, she asked her manager to do it on her behalf. She had no sincerity at all. When the news spread to Yun Shishir, the scolding war on Weibo had escalated like a raging fire. Hardcore fans and anti-fans stood in two rows, arguing on Weibo. Yun Shishir felt gloomy. She was confused for a moment. She didn't even know when she had posted that on Weibo, no matter how she thought about it. It might have been sent by Qin Zhou. She immediately called Qin Zhou to verify the situation. Qin Zhou didn't know that because he didn't care about blocking his client's logo, his identity was exposed. "Oh no, I did something bad with good intentions." Yun Shishir's lips twitched. "Boss, if you have any instructions, you can call me. It's just a Weibo post. I still have some free time." Chapter 2377. Qin Zhou pondered for a moment before saying, "No matter what, you'd better explain this on Weibo. Just say that you're taking care of your father in the hospital. Just tell the truth. Otherwise, you'll be the hottest topic on Weibo." Yun Shishir broke out in cold sweat. Okay. She went online and posted a long Weibo post to explain the situation. When her diehard fans learned that her father was hospitalized, they became even angrier. Shishir has been taking care of her seriously injured father in the hospital these few days. You keyboard warriors are too much to attack her indiscriminately. There were also fans of the magical powers who dug up the background of those anti-fans. Yun Shishir was not in the mood to care about the chaos online. For a few days, Yun Shishir and Gong Jie took turns to take care of her father in the hospital. She had to admit that she thought that Gong Jie was a man, after all. It was fine for him to stay overnight, but if he were to take care of an injured person, he would not be attentive enough. However, she was still worried at first and came to the hospital to take a look. When she saw Gong Jie taking care of her father, who was lying on the hospital bed, she was surprised and felt warmth in her heart. He was very attentive to Yun Yeching and would do everything himself, busying himself with everything. In fact, Gong Jie was an extremely heartless person. He rarely got close to anyone. If not for Yun Shishir, he would not have taken pity on her father, even if he was seriously injured and lying in front of him. However, it was precisely because this ordinary man raised his sister single-handedly. The kindness of raising her was as heavy as Mount Tai. Therefore, even if there were inevitably some dirty and tiring work when he took care of her, he still did not complain and was considerate and attentive. Taking care of such a seriously injured person was really not a good job. However, Gong Jie took care of her very carefully and did not complain at all. At the same time, the Mu Group also released an announcement regarding Mu Yaja's resignation as the Mu Group CEO. Unsurprisingly, the moment the announcement was released, there was an uproar again. Mu Yaja was a cunning old fox. He had clearly stated in the announcement that Mu Yaja had resigned on his own accord and that it had nothing to do with the company's internal affairs. He also made it clear that after Mu Yaja announced his resignation, Mu Corporation tried to persuade him to stay, but he did not cherish the opportunity. However, this announcement letter still caused countless waves of commotion. Everyone in Mu Group was speechless. To Mu Yaja, the position of CEO was dispensable. In his eyes, the position that so many people coveted but couldn't get was worthless in his eyes. He didn't want it all. The other competitors of the Mu family felt even more indignant. The things that they were fighting for at all costs were not rare in the eyes of others at all. After the announcement was released, it caused a huge uproar. Naturally, Mu Group's shares fell again and again on the same day. They fell to the bottom of the valley. Hundreds of millions of yuan of market value disappeared overnight. Of course, this loss was not a big deal to the Mu family, but it was not a small loss either. It still caused a lot of turmoil in the Mu family. Chapter 2378. Many reporters found out that the second head of the Mu family preferred Mu Yinqing, the illegitimate son of the Mu family. Mu Yinqing. Can he do it? With a pioneer like Mu Yaja in front of him, if he were to rise to the top, would he be able to shine like Mu Yaja? It was impossible. Everyone knew that no one in the Mu family could replace Mu Yaja's position and achievements. After Mu Yaja left the Mu group, everyone's confidence in the Mu group was greatly reduced. Just like what Mu Yaja had said, the Mu group would only become a wasteland without him. In addition to the plunge in the stock market, many investors withdrew their investments. Some of them who had deep ties with the Mu group chose to withdraw their investments. If this situation continued, the Mu group would be trampled under his feet sooner or later. Taking advantage of the turbulence in the Mu group, the Xingyu Financial Group also launched a large-scale offensive, boldly and decisively building momentum. This was where Mu Yaja's shrewdness came into play. The reason why these shareholders and investors withdrew their investments, leaving aside the fertile projects of the Mu group, was that they no longer had confidence in the Mu group. Mu Yaja's departure meant that the huge mountain of Mu group had lost its leader. In this way, in such a cruel market, he would no longer have a leadership position. For so long, he had been biding his time, waiting for the day when the Mu group released the announcement letter. Many companies chose to withdraw their investments from the Mu group. Hence, Mu Yaja casually sent Jiang Shun and Lu Jinyu to rope in those shareholders. On the second day after the Mu group released the announcement letter, the Xingyu Financial Group announced a new round of financing. The legal person of the group was officially changed to Mu Yaja. Thanks to Song Zhenghua, with the land in the new city in his hands, the financing went very smoothly. In just a few days, it exceeded his expectations by several times. The financing went very smoothly. Just a week after Mu Corporation issued the announcement letter, Xingyu Financial Group was listed on the New York Stock Exchange and announced its listing. On the day Xingyu Financial Group went public, it was unprecedented. The opening price was $99.32, with a total market value of $452 billion. It was much more than expected. Before this, many people had noticed this eye-catching group. In just a few years, it had achieved extraordinary results. After it went public, it quickly took the lead and even surpassed many famous local companies in the United States. After being listed, Mu Yaja's extraordinary effect could be said to be unprecedented. This meant that once Xingyu was listed, he would have a net worth of hundreds of millions. The news quickly spread to the Song family. That night, Song Zhenghua came home angrily. He slammed the financial newspaper on the table and scolded. "This kid is really good at scheming. I was wondering why he was able to step down from his position as the CEO of the Mu family so easily back then. He was so confident and disdainful. He didn't even want it anymore." It turned out that a few years ago, he had secretly planned and cultivated his own forces. Now that Xingyu is listed, its stock price rose to $120 by the end of the day. He's really riding on the crest of success. When Jiang Qiming heard this, she was a little confused and hurriedly asked what was going on. Song Zhenghua tugged at his tie in annoyance and paced a few rounds on the spot. He slammed the table, his veins popping out in anger. "He set me up. Damn it." Chapter 2379. Song Zhenghua said unhappily, "What else could it be? Your brother is very shrewd." Back when he was still in the Mu family, he relied on the Mu family's resources to cultivate his own company. Even the Mu family didn't know about this. In order to hide it from others, the legal person of Xingyu Financial Group was Lu Jinyu's name from the beginning. A few days ago, he changed the legal person. Last night, he listed it in New York and became hundreds of billions of yuan. I've really underestimated his capabilities previously. I thought that after he left the Mu family, he would have nothing. Song Inya was watching TV in the living room. When she heard her father's words, she was shocked and her eyelids twitched. "Dad, what did you say? How did the Xingyu Financial Group, which has been very popular recently, become Brother Mu's? Can't you tell? He's been planning for this day for a long time. The second in charge of the Mu family is probably going to be angered to death. They nurtured him wholeheartedly, but in the end, they raised an ingrate. Now that he's gone, Not only did he take away a lot of the Mu family's resources, but many shareholders and investors also withdrew their investment from the Mu Group and transferred their investments to the Xingyu Financial Group. In this way, the Mu Group must have suffered a great loss after suffering such a heavy blow. Song Yinya's face turned pale as she sorted out the situation. Jiang Qimeng said in a daze, "You mean to say that a few years ago, that kid had already started planning something else and established Xingyu? This Xingyu is his doing? What else could it be?" Song Zhenghua said unhappily, "I've dealt with Xingyu a few times, but I didn't find anything fishy. I didn't expect that, from the beginning to the end, this kid had everything planned out. Not long ago, he took that piece of land from me and used it to finance his project. Now he's so proud of himself." Hearing this, Song Inya bit her lip hard as her facial muscles twitched. Oh my God, what was this? What was this? Ever since that incident, her love for Mu Yaja was as deep as her hatred. The more she loved him, the more she hated him now. She had thought that after Mu Yaja left the Mu Group, he would have nothing left. At first, she was secretly proud. She was counting on the day when she became the young madam of Mu Jia. She must run to Yin Shishir to show off. But what about her? He wanted to see with his own eyes how dejected they were. After leaving the Mu Group and losing that position, that arrogant and extraordinary man must have fallen from the peak to the bottomless abyss, right? Chasing after love? Did she disregard fame and fortune for the sake of love? At that time, she would be different. As long as Mu Yinxing acknowledged the child in her womb and married into the Mu family, she would be the Mu family's young mistress. She did not have to worry about Mu Yinxing refusing to acknowledge the child. She had plenty of means to force him to acknowledge it. As for Yin Shishir, she was with a down-and-out man and had nothing. Just thinking about it made her blood boil. What about Mu Yaja? She still wanted to see how he would regret it when he ended up in such a miserable state. He had chosen AB*TCH like Yin Shishir. He was even willing to abandon his family and step down as the head of the household for her. She wanted to see how lowly this man, who had always been high-spirited, would be when he lost his power and wealth. She even wanted to see how he would regret it when the time came. Chapter 2380. What about now? Not only was this man not down and out, he was even flushed with success. Even after leaving the Mu Group, he was still wealthy and had a lot of money. Song Inya was livid with anger as she threw the pillow on the floor. How could this be? In the end, wasn't she just like a clown being toyed with by him? In the end, wasn't she being treated like a joke by that woman? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She stood up and wanted to return to her room, but just as she stood up, she blacked out on the sofa. She did not know if it was due to her emotions or something else. After losing consciousness for a short while, she woke up in her room. Song Zhenghua and Jiang Qimeng hurriedly sent her to her bedroom when they saw her faint. They were in a hurry to get the family doctor to check on her, but she had already woken up. Seeing that she was awake, Song Zhenghua spat. "What's wrong with you again? Why is your body so weak? Why? Did you get agitated after hearing that man's success?" Jiang Qimeng immediately retorted, "Our daughter isn't feeling well. Stop talking so much. Do you still want to add fuel to the fire? What kind of tone is that?" "Zhenghua," Jiang Qimeng said, "leave us alone for a while. I want to have a heart-to-heart talk with our daughter." "Forget it. Do whatever you want. I'm also troubled, so don't bother me." With that, he slammed the door and left. As soon as he left, Song Inya broke down and burst into tears. "Mom, Inya, what's wrong? Mom, I become a clown again. This time, they'll only gloat and laugh at me. Whether it's Yin Shishir or Brother Mu, they all treat me like a clown and play me in the palm of their hands. Mom, I worked so hard to marry into the Mu family and did everything I could to open their eyes and see how glorious I am when I become a young mistress. Even without Brother Mu, I can still live well. But now, Brother Mu is flushed with success again. Poor me for being so silly. In the end, I still fell into his trap. How could he do this? Why are you so cruel to me?" The more he thought about it, the more terrifying it was. From beginning to the end, Mu Yaja, as well as her and Song Zhenghua, had calculated everything perfectly. He had long known that she had stolen his sperm. He had long known that she had secretly gone to the United States to arrange for artificial insemination. He had long calculated all of this and used it as leverage to threaten her in disguise. He had snatched the land of the new city from her father's hands, raised funds with great fanfare, and went public. Overnight, he had become a billionaire. She was so pitiful. She was deeply in love and had put in so much effort. But in the end, she was only a stepping stone for him. What was this? Mom, I really can't accept it. I was deeply in love, but I was betrayed. What was so good about that Yin Shur that he would do everything to fight for her? And what about me? I actually became a stepping stone for him to step on. He used me to the fullest, but he didn't even look at me. Why? She used to think that she was special. At the very least, he had never given his tenderness to any other woman except for her. But now, she felt that she was a pitiful lunatic from head to toe, a fool. Chapter 2381. For the sake of loving her, she pulled out the thorns on her body one by one until she was covered in bruises. She hoped that one day, she would be able to take back her pride, dignity, and face from Muyaja. But now, she was in despair. I'm a fool. A big fool. Song Inya was so agitated that she grabbed the bedsheets and scratched at them. Tears and snot flowed down her cheeks. Jiang Qiming hugged her in her arms with heartache. Song Inya cried bitterly. Mom, I was wrong. I should have listened to you back then and not pestered him. But I have nothing now. My pride, my self-esteem, everything has been ruthlessly trampled on by him. I'm like a hedgehog whose thorns have been pulled out, and I'm covered in wounds. In the end, I become a joke to everyone. Mu Yinqing must hate me. He hates me for being shameless and unscrupulous. He must think that I'm cheap. God knows how he'll look down on me if he finds out how the child in my tummy came about. Then get your pride and self-esteem back. I can't get it back. Song Inya broke down. Look at how smug they are now. What can I do? I should have expected this. I should have expected that a proud man like him would never allow himself to be down and out, not even for a minute. I naively thought that he would be left with nothing after leaving the Mu group. How laughable. He was so proud that he would never allow himself to fall to the bottom. Silly child, it's precisely because of this that you have to work harder to live a better life. Believe me, if you marry into the Mu group and live a glorious life, who will laugh at you? Even if he makes a comeback, so what? Although the Mu group has suffered a great loss, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. No matter what, Xingyu Financial Group can't compete with the Mu group. The Mu group had been at the top for a long time. It was deeply rooted in the company, and no one could shake their position. If you become the young mistress of the Mu family, others will be envious. Who will look down on you? With tears in her eyes, Song Inya nodded helplessly. I've already laid all my cards on the table with Mu Yinqing that day. He doesn't believe that what happened that day was a coincidence at all. People from a Mu family are indeed not easy to fool. So what if he knows? He has to acknowledge this child whether he wants to or not. As Jiang Qiming said this, the corners of her lips curled up into a cold smile. The Mu family. Your child. Mu Shumin stared at Mu Yinqing, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Mu Yinqing, that Song Inya is pregnant with your child? Yes. You. Are you trying to anger me? At this critical juncture, you actually came up with such a trick. Mu Shumin said angrily. She had expected better from him. Of Mu's Mu aunt Ans's aunt Ans's Mu to Mu's child is Yun Mu's child of A's. If he didn't touch her, then how did she get pregnant? Mu Shumin did not think much of it. Since she's pregnant with your child, what's there to deny? Chapter 2382. Artificial Insemination. Mu Shumin was shocked. Mu Yinqing nodded, looking a little aggrieved. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, You can ask second uncle about this matter. He has already sent people to investigate the background of the child in Song Inya's stomach. I think we should get an answer soon. Mu Shumin furrowed his brows, looking a little surprised. Why would she do that? Even if she used such a method, she shouldn't have targeted you, right? I heard that this lass has never changed her mind about Yaja. How did it involve you? Mu Yinqing was at a loss about Mu Shumin's doubts. Hee. I don't know. Who knows what she's thinking? I wasn't wary of her, but I didn't expect her to plot against me. Mu Shumin's interest was piqued as he asked, "Oh, where did this come from? What the hell is going on?" That day, I met her at a bar. Mu Yinqing gave a concise account of what had happened that night. Mu Shumin's expression changed again and again as he listened. In the end, shock was not enough to describe it. She actually used such a despicable method on you. Huh, that Jiang Qiming is really too much. As a daughter, she's despicable, and as a mother, she's also fooling around. How does the Song family discipline their women? Does Song Jinghua know about this? I'm not sure. Mu Yinqing moved and said, "Anyway, Auntie, you have to believe me. I didn't touch her at all. Although I've had other women outside and played with them, I've always known my limits. I'll never have any thoughts about someone who doesn't change. Song Inya has the Song family behind her. If I were to mess around, wouldn't her mayor father skin me alive?" Mu Shumin was silent for a moment before he muttered, "If that's really what you said, in my opinion, this child can't be kept." What do you mean? If such a scheming woman marries into the Mu family, won't the world be turned upside down? The Mu family is already in a mess. With such a woman, it'll be chaos. No matter what, you have to marry a woman who's easy to control. I'm worried that you won't be able to subdue Song Inya. Mu Yinqing laughed disdainfully. There's no woman that I can't subdue. That's because you haven't fallen for men. Hee. Don't underestimate women. After a moment of silence, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Auntie, do you know about Xingyu Financial Group's recent listing in New York?" Chapter 2383. At the thought of this, Mu Shumin was furious. B*****. How can we let him have his way? What should we do now, then? Since this battle has already begun, even if we have to bite the bullet and suffer losses on both sides, we should still fight it. After saying that, Mu Shumin slowly stood up and said with a vicious expression, "At the very least, we have to show him that the Mu family isn't so easy to bring down. Xingyu Financial Group alone is far from enough to bring down the Mu family." The two men looked at each other, their eyes filled with viciousness. The next day, Mu Shumin looked for Mu Linfeng and mentioned Song Enya's matter. Mu Linfeng sat at his desk and glanced at her. Suddenly, he said in a deep voice, "I think I know what's going on now. Second brother, don't keep me in suspense. Since you said that you found out, why don't you tell me what's going on?" That last didn't steal Mu Yinqing's sperm from the sperm vault, but Mu Yaja's. She ran to America and secretly underwent artificial insemination. In the end, Yaja found out about it and secretly tampered with it, replacing it with Mu Yinqing's. She had painstakingly prepared for pregnancy and suffered a lot. When she finally got pregnant after much difficulty, she was awakened by Yaja's splashing of cold water on her. Not only that, he even used this as a threat to make Song Jinghua obediently hand over the land in Xiancheng. Then he used this land for financing and successfully listed it. From the beginning to the end, everything was in his plan. He calculated step by step, including Song Inya, me, and the entire Mu group. Every step he took was aimed at our vital points. I have to say that this brat was able to calculate to this extent. It's an eye-opener for me. What do we do now? Mu Shumin was angry and anxious. That Song Inya is too shameless. She's trying to frame Yinqing. Is she crazy? Second brother, why don't we secretly get rid of her child? We can't let such a scheming woman marry into our family. What are you going to do? Mu Linfeng asked. Mu Shumin was at a loss for words. You're not going to tell me that you're going to kidnap that girl and forcefully abort the child in her stomach, are you? Can't I? You should know that the Song family is not to be trifled with. However, Mu Shumin disagreed and said contemptuously, "Do you think our Mu family is afraid of a mere Song family? At this juncture, offending the Song family will not end well for the Mu family." If these words came out of Mu Yaja's mouth, it would be more convincing. After all, I believe that he has the means to settle this matter. But you forget it. Don't cause any more trouble at this critical juncture. Mu Shumin panicked. Second brother, that lass is so shrewd. What will happen if she marries into the Mu family? That girl won't amount to anything. With you suppressing her, won't she still be under your control? That little scheming of hers won't be enough to turn the Mu family upside down. After weighing the pros and cons, we should go with her wishes. Since she wants to marry into the family, we might as well fulfill her wish. The Mu family can still afford to give her a status. Mu Shumin bit his lip indignantly, feeling indignant. A tiger would be bullied by a dog if it fell to the ground. Chapter 2384. I'll leave this matter to you to handle. Since she's pregnant, we can't afford to take any more responsibility. Besides, marrying Song Inya into the family might not necessarily be a bad thing for the Mu family. That old man of hers has quite a bit of power in his hands. He can help a little at this juncture. Then Yinxing will definitely be wronged. What's there to suffer? Mu Linfeng smiled. He'll only suffer more if he marries Lin Shuya. That last Lin Shuya's temper was even worse. At worst, he could let him marry a few more concubines in the future. It was not impossible. The most important thing now is to settle this matter as soon as possible. Song Inya is doing this because she's sure that Mu Yinxing has no choice but to acknowledge this child. This, Mu Shumin could not calm his anger. After calming himself down, he swallowed his anger and said, "All right." When she returned home, even though she was furious, she still made arrangements according to Mu Linfeng's instructions. Mu Yinxing was not surprised when he heard the news, but he still felt uncomfortable. To him, marrying Song Inya was not a loss or grievance. It was just that he felt unbalanced. At the end of the day, he was just a replacement. Song Inya was originally aiming for Mu Yaja, but in the end, he did not care and did not want her. In the end, it fell to him. To put it bluntly, if he was not a spare tire, what was he? Only when Mu Yaja did not want her would it be his turn. He could not get over this hurdle in his heart. However, Mu Linfeng had also said that this marriage should be done as soon as possible. Once Song Inya married into the family, he would do some work to help him ascend to the position. The position of the Mu Group CEO was still empty. Every day that it was empty was another day of turmoil in the Mu Group. A country could not be without a ruler for a day. If such a large financial group lost its leader, it would be more dangerous. If Song Inya married into the family with the support of the Song family, the Mu family could get through this public relations crisis as soon as possible. Only then did Mu Yinxing feel a little better. At night in the hospital, Yin Shishir stayed in the ward and quietly read the script. When it was early in the morning, she was so sleepy that she fell asleep. She did not know how long she had slept until she was awakened by a soft, rustling sound. She opened her eyes warily and sat up abruptly, only to see Mu Yaja sitting by the hospital bed, dabbing some water on her father's lips. She was a little surprised and said softly, "You're back?" Mu Yaja turned around. "You're awake?" "Yes." Yin Shishir walked up to him and said, "When did you come back? Why didn't you wake me up?" Some time ago, Mu Yaja flew straight to the United States because of the listing of Xingyu Financial Group. He did not say when he would be back. She did not know much about the listing of Xingyu Financial Group. She only knew that her man had his own assets and company outside of the Mu Group. However, she only had a rough idea and did not know how big his company was or how big it was. Mu Yaja did not mention too much and only told her to take care of Yin Yaja. "I rushed over as soon as I got off the plane. When I came in, I saw you dozing off and the script on the floor. I thought that you must be very sleepy, so I didn't wake you up. You should have woken me up. Since you're tired, sleep a little longer. I'll take care of you." Chapter 2385. Yin Shishir also sat down by the bed. He asked, "How's Dad?" The doctor said that his condition has stabilized, but he can't eat or drink for the time being. He's relying on the nutrient solution to maintain his health. Yin Shishir paused. "What about the company? Is it going well?" "Yeah, everything is going well." Mu Yaja reached out and gently tucked her hair behind her ear. "Everything is going according to plan." Yin Shishir smiled. She knew that her man was extremely outstanding and would never allow himself to fail. Once he decided to do something, he would definitely do it to the best of his ability. Hence, she was never worried. Muyaja's lips curled into a smile as he pulled her into his embrace and gently said, I told you before that I'll give you the best life. Yin Shur hugged his waist and said emotionally, Yeah, I know. Sure, I've already contacted them. After I'm done with work, I'll take you to try on the wedding dress. Yin Shur was stunned. Wedding dress? Why? Don't tell me you forgot? Muyaja playfully scratched her nose and said, The wedding dress you wore for the wedding photo shoot. I remember now. Yin Shur smacked her forehead and said, I've been so busy recently that I almost forgot about it. Muyaja rubbed her head lovingly. He liked to rub her little head. It was said that the way a man doted on a woman was not to treat her like a princess, but to dote on her like a daughter. Yin Shur slapped his hand away. Hey, you're messing up my hair. I've long lost my image. Humph. Yin Shur snorted a few times. However, Muyaja said, You sound like a little pig when you snort. Yin Shur was a little surprised. How could he be like those ordinary couples and use Piggy as a pet name? Many couples would call each other pig babies when they flirted with each other. In her eyes, this man had always been otherworldly. She didn't expect him to have such a down-to-earth side. Yin Shur snorted in dissatisfaction. You're the piggy. I'm not going to snort like a piglet. If I'm a pig, then what are you? Oomph. You're a beast. You won't even let a pig go. Before Yin Shur could finish her words, Muyaja suddenly hugged the back of her neck and heavily sealed her lips. The kiss caught her off guard and blocked her breath. He kissed her gently, but he seemed a little anxious. After the kiss was over, he pressed his forehead against hers and said softly, Little fool, do you know that I can't wait to see you in your wedding dress in front of me? Upon hearing this, Yin Shur's heart skipped a beat. She looked up and met his tender gaze. Her heart actually skipped a beat. I can't wait to see you in your wedding dress in front of me. He had imagined this scene countless times. He imagined that when she stood in front of him in a holy and beautiful wedding dress, he would definitely feel a burning sensation in his chest that was on the verge of bursting out. Has the wedding dress been custom-made? Yes, I've ordered 3 sets. As for the other gowns, I've also picked out a few designs. When the time comes, I'll bring you to try it on. Do you know? I suddenly feel so nervous. Chapter 2386. Yin Shur told him the truth. Those brides in wedding gowns are so beautiful. I don't know what I'll look like in a wedding gown. I'm worried that I won't be beautiful enough. She was shy. She was the same. She had fantasized countless times about standing in front of him in a wedding gown. When that time came, she would be so nervous that she would not know where to put her hands. That feeling was indescribable. When are you going to try on a wedding gown? Muyaja replied, Next week. I've already made an appointment. Okay. Dad should be more stable next week. The next day, Yin Yeching underwent his second surgery. The surgery was very successful. When his condition stabilized, Yin Shur hired a few caregivers for him and returned to the office. Qingzhou had taken on many drafts for her. Because of Yin Yeching's matter, a lot of time had been delayed and piled up. A few investors were getting impatient from waiting. Since the contract had been signed, every day it was delayed was a loss to them. Fortunately, Qingzhou's public relations methods were in place and smoothed out these investors' hairs. After returning to the office, Yin Shur threw herself into a hectic schedule. She shot a series of pictorials for an advertiser, then contacted and rushed to shoot 3 commercials. Following that, Qingzhou hurriedly brought her to appear on a few variety shows. After that, she successfully joined the cast. The script she took on was an urban idol drama. She played the female lead, a genius racer, which was extremely eye-catching because it involved her family's love and hatred. Actually, there were not many stories about racers in the market. It was not that there had not been any dramas or movies about racers, but most of them were mediocre after being released. Racer stories were very unpopular. After all, there was not much of an audience for them. The more famous one in this field was a Japanese comic called Initial D. However, this script was adapted from a best-selling novel and had a sizable readership. Once the novel was published, it immediately gained countless fans. After it was printed and published, it sold more than 100,000 copies a month, which surprised many publishers. When this novel was first submitted, many publishers rejected it with the reason that such a theme was too unpopular. Unexpectedly, this novel was so popular that it made many publishers slap their thighs in anger for missing out on business opportunities. The main reason for the novel's popularity was that the female lead's character was extremely likable. Coupled with the tight plot and clever plot design, it was extremely tense and intense. This was also why Lin Ji fought so hard for it. One had to know that the most important thing for a script, besides the plot, was the character. A dazzling character could become an actor overnight. Back then, Gu Xingzi relied on his outstanding persona to quickly accumulate a large number of fans. The female lead, Han Zhen, was born in a seemingly ordinary family. However, her father was an outstanding and talented racer more than 20 years ago. After winning the Grand Slam, he aroused the jealousy of other racers. During a competition, his car was secretly tampered with. An accident happened during the competition, and one of his legs was crippled. Helpless, he chose to retire, bid farewell to his career, and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 2387. Hence, he trained her from a young age and continued to develop her talent in the field of racing. However, Han Zhen did not have much interest in racing. Even though she had inherited her father's excellent racing genes and was very talented in racing, she had always regarded driving as a tedious task. Until one day, she became interested in racing by accident and found out that her father used to be an excellent racer. In the end, she found out that the father of the male lead she was in love with was the culprit who had caused her father's leg to break. The female lead's character was very likable. She was different from the noisy and silly female leads in idol dramas. She had a calm and collected personality and dared to love and hate. As a racer, she was cool and handsome. However, because the female lead in the novel had short hair, she would have to cut her hair short. Yin Shishir was worried. She had to cut her hair before getting married. Wouldn't she look ugly in a wedding dress with short hair? She hadn't even taken her wedding photos yet. When Yin Shishir first received the script, she couldn't help but feel worried and nervous. She asked Qin Zhou, "I've read the script. There are many drifting scenes. Damn it, I can't do these scenes at all. It's too exciting. Please, we can use special effects for these scenes. What are you afraid of? It's not like you're really drifting." Only then did Yin Shishir feel at ease. However, before they could start filming, they still had to go through a series of training. Some scenes could be done by relying on the camera, while others had to be done by the actors themselves. During this period, many interesting things happened. Yin Shishir sat in the front passenger seat for the first time and observed the expressions, posture, and movements of the professional racers during the race. In the end, after one lap, she screamed the entire time. When she got out of the car, she leaned against the wall and vomited. It was too exciting. The racers they hired were all professional racers. During the training, they chose the mountain roads. There were a few times when Yin Shishir saw that the rear of the car was less than 5 centimeters away from the fence. Outside the fence was a cliff. If the car made a mistake and lost control, it would fall off the cliff. Yin Shishir was so scared that her eyes almost rolled back. Qin Zhou scolded her for being useless. "Please, can you be a little more mature? It's not even your turn yet, and you've already fainted. If it's your turn to drive, won't you be so scared that you're foaming at the mouth?" Yin Shishir was terrified. "It's too dangerous. How about I don't film it?" "No," Qin Zhou said strongly. "Do you know how many celebrities can't get this role to film? You were appointed as the female lead because the Green Apple was a hit. If you don't want to act, I'll cry for you." Yin Shishir crossed her arms and said, "Sure. If you really cry in front of me, I'll act well. Actually, I think it's more appropriate to let June Mo act in this movie. She's also a racer. She has short hair and is very handsome. The female lead only has short hair. She's not a tomboy. June Mo's image is too much like a man's. It's very awkward to act in a love scene." After a short pause, Qin Zhou said gloomily, "Are you trying to anger me to death by saying all this? I've never seen you cry before, so I'm curious. Cut the crap. You have to work hard during these few days of training. If you act in this film, I guarantee that you'll be an A-lister." "Okay." Yin Shirshir said bitterly. I'll act well. That's more like it. Chapter 2388. After a day of training, Yin Shirshir returned home and rushed into the study. She pounced on a man who was working and said with a depressed expression, "What should I do?" "Hubby, I have to cut my hair short for the new movie. I'm done for." She wouldn't be wearing a wedding dress with short hair, would she? I've never been willing to cut my hair. Muyaja was still immersed in her affectionate hubby. However, when he realized that she had to cut her hair for the movie, he immediately came back to his senses. "What movie do you have to cut your hair for?" "It's an urban idol drama. I'm playing a racer." Muyaja turned his head and looked at her suspiciously. "You? A racer?" "Ah, it's hard to imagine." "Why?" Muyaja said. "You're so useless. Usually, when I drive at a higher speed, you get carsick. It's no wonder you're foaming at the mouth when you're playing a racer." Yin Shirshir lowered her head awkwardly. Was he blaming her for getting carsick? Yin Shirshir shook him and said gloomily, "Hey, the main point is that I can't keep my long hair for this role. I'm not cutting it." Yin Shirshir said, "The female lead is supposed to have short hair. The director said that I'm not allowed to wear a wig. Otherwise, it would look too out of place." At the mention of this, she was quite against it. However, Qingzhou said to her, Sure, you have to remember that you're an actress. You have to be more professional. We're not asking you to strip naked and run around naked. There's no difference between cutting my hair and stripping my clothes." Yin Shirshir said, "I've never cut my hair short. What if it doesn't look good?" "How is that possible? You're pretty. If you don't look good after cutting your hair, you'll be ugly to your grandmother." "Don't say such things." Yin Shirshir pouted and said pitifully, "I'm going to take my wedding photos soon. If I wear a wedding dress at the wedding with short hair, it'll be awkward." However, Qingzhou was very optimistic. "It's okay. Chairman Mu won't mind." "How is this possible? Even if you shave all your hair and become bald, you're still President Mu's darling. He'll still hold your face and kiss you at the wedding." Yin Shirshir was confused by his words. She imagined herself wearing a wedding dress with short hair. It must be very strange, right? Many female artists also have short hair. They look better than long hair. "At least wait until I'm done with the wedding photos. Then why aren't you filming?" Qingzhou waved his hand. "I'll approve your leave. When are you going to film? I'll give you 3 days off." She snapped out of her thoughts and heard Muyaja say, "It's okay to cut your hair short. Don't you think it looks less feminine?" Muyaja glanced at her chest and shook his head. "No." Yin Shirshir followed his gaze and it landed on her chest. She blushed and covered his face with her hand to hide his gaze. She said angrily, "I'm being serious with you. I'm being serious too." Muyaja suddenly put his arm around her waist and pulled her into his arms. He kissed her cheek. "It's okay. Even if you cut your hair short, I won't despise you. But I despise myself." Yin Shirshir held his face and mumbled, "I must be ugly with short hair. Who asked you to take on this show?" Chapter 2389. Force yourself on me? Muyaja narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Yin Shirshir immediately said, "Hey, you're not allowed to think that way. Does cutting your hair make your heart ache so much?" Yin Shirshir pouted and nodded. She stared at him innocently with a hint of coquettishness. "Then don't cut it. There is no need to be so conflicted. If she didn't want to cut her hair, then no one could force her. But the role requires it. The director could have slapped me to death with just that one sentence." Yin Shirshir pinched her hair and twirled it around her fingers. Looking at her beautiful hair, she felt that it was such a pity. "What a pity!" Sigh. Muyaja rubbed her hair and smiled. "No one dares to touch a strand of your hair. Don't think too much." Yin Shirshir was a little puzzled. She asked blankly why. "There's no reason." Muyaja raised his eyebrows. His eyes were deep as he smirked and said, "I like your black hair too. It would be a pity if you cut it off for a role." "Then, am I being a little unprofessional?" Yin Shirshir mumbled. "Some time ago, an actress was criticized by the netizens for being unprofessional." "What do you mean?" She said, "It's because there's a popular starlet. When she was filming, she wore contact lenses and the role required her to cut her hair short, but she didn't cut it. Instead, she chose to wear a wig. It was very abrupt and out of place. The netizens didn't buy it and criticized her collectively, saying that her acting was bad and that she didn't work hard at all even though she was getting such a high salary. She was even chewing gum while filming. The entertainment industry was a big dive factory. The market was getting more and more impetuous. Acting was no longer as pure as before. 10 years ago, the fans were very passionate about movie stars and youth idols. In other words, they would unconditionally protect their fans. But now, although most of the fans were obsessed with their idols, they were very rational. Besides looks, the fans also valued character and artistic integrity. Their mentality of chasing after idols had matured. They wouldn't blindly tolerate the bad sides of celebrities. The fans all said that she had such a high salary, but acted in such a lousy show. Her acting skills were bad, her character was bad, and her work attitude was bad. Some of the fans especially hated her. Actually, I also think that chewing gum while filming is a bit too much, but those personal attacks are a bit too much. Muyaja said, "High pay means high popularity. High popularity means that people will buy the drama series she produces. Sometimes the public is like this. When they are happy, they will support her. When they are unhappy, they will step on her. Because no matter what they say, they don't have to take responsibility. Yes, after all, the internet was so big. One would not have to bear any responsibility for anything they said or criticized anyone." Chapter 2390. To be honest, I remember there was a movie queen who soaked in the cold pool for an entire afternoon when her period came. Although I feel that this is a way to create hype, if an actress doesn't even know how to take care of her own body for the sake of her work, then this kind of moral kidnapping is really scary. So, I don't think that the actress who refused to cut her hair is unprofessional. Muyaja frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. Yun Shirshir snuggled in his arms and said gloomily, "Because after all, most young girls like to look beautiful when it comes to long, beautiful hair. Who would be willing to cut their hair?" "Groundless worries," Muyaja grumbled before adding. "Qin Zhou is just talking about it. He might not really dare to cut your hair." "Really?" "Yeah." Yin Shirshir suddenly felt much better. She held his face and kissed him. She said happily, "Thank you for your kind words. If Qin Zhou really cuts my hair, you'll what?" Yin Shirshir's face darkened. "I'll shave your hair while you're asleep." Muyaja was speechless. In the middle of the night, she stood in front of his window with a razor and smiled eerily. This scene was very scary no matter how he thought about it. "Oh yeah." Yin Shirshir suddenly thought of something and asked seductively, "About my dad's case, is there still no news from the police station?" "Not at the moment. Are they going to conclude it with a robbery case? They can't find any evidence, and the police station is helpless. No matter how much pressure they exert with their abilities, even if it's really an enemy, they don't have the ability to conclude the case." Yin Shirshir lowered her eyelashes in disappointment and frowned. Muyaja lifted her chin and comforted her. "Don't worry about this. I've already sent people to investigate. I'll send someone to guard the case strictly at your dad's place." Okay. The next morning, Huanyu Building. Qin Zhou rushed to the company for a regular meeting as usual. However, just as he stepped into the office and pushed the door open, a tall and slender figure came into view. His eyelids twitched violently. He saw Muyaja sitting at his desk like an old man, casually flipping through some scripts and drafts that had been sent to him. When he heard the door open, he didn't even look up to say, "Morning." Qin Zhou didn't know when he had arrived. Qin Zhou's scalp numb and the corners of his mouth twitching a bit. "You don't visit a temple without a reason. What instructions do you have for me?" Only then did Muyaja raise his head and casually set aside a stack of documents. He then leisurely asked, "Can I come and catch up with an old friend?" Reminiscing about the past in the company doesn't seem very romantic. Qin Zhou ordered a cup of coffee and a cup of black tea. He usually had the habit of drinking coffee in the morning, but he knew Muyaja's preferences very well. He didn't like to drink coffee in the morning, so he ordered a cup of black tea for him. Muyaja ordered a few desserts. He flipped through the menu and said, "You're drinking coffee so early in the morning. You're really carefree. It's a habit for many years." Chapter 2391. However, Muyaja said nonchalantly, everything is going according to plan. There's nothing to celebrate. However, Qin-jo smiled. The coffee and black tea were served quickly. Muyaja stirred the black tea and remained silent. Qin-jo picked up the coffee cup and took a sip as he narrowed his eyes. The two of them chatted casually for a while. Suddenly, Muyaja changed the topic and said, my wife recently took on a drama. I heard that it's a racer and she's playing a female racer in it. Qin-jo was stunned for a moment before he nodded. Yes, the script is not bad. It's an idol drama created by a gold medal team. The original script is very popular. I don't care what role she plays. I allowed her to act because acting is her hobby. I only care about. Muyaja paused and looked up at his face. He said casually, I heard that you want to cut her hair? Qin-jo was speechless. He knew it. One would never visit a temple for no reason. This man was a busy man. Why would he come over to talk about old times? It must be because of his wife. As he thought of this, Qin-jo instantly became alert and explained, in this novel, the female lead has short hair. Therefore, in order to restore the original script, the director wants her to cut her hair. He threw the blame on the production crew. Qin-jo completely disassociated himself from the matter. Just because they want to restore the original script, they have to cut her hair? Muyaja was a little displeased. Don't you know that my wife and I are going to take our wedding photos soon? The wedding is already in the works. Don't tell me you want her to wear a wedding dress with short hair? Qin-jo broke out in a cold sweat and turned around to play dead. There's no point in playing dead. Muyaja gently knocked on the table with his knuckles and gave an order. Don't touch a single strand of her hair. If it's really necessary, replace it with a wig. President Mu, if we use a wig, it will look too out of place. Her hair is so long that the wig won't be able to cover it. Muyaja did not buy it. Since it's an adaptation based on a novel, then it's an adaptation. Naturally, you can change the character setting and change the short hair to long hair. That doesn't fit the character's setting. Qin-jo felt wronged. In the original novel, the female lead had short hair, which made her look cold. With long hair, her temperament was a little lacking. Temperament can be made up for with acting skills. Are you still worried about her acting skills? Qin-jo's lips twitched. I don't know how to act, but I just want my wife to appear at our wedding in her most beautiful state. Therefore, you're not allowed to touch a single strand of her hair. His attitude was very strong, and there was almost no room for negotiation. Qin-jo felt helpless. Chairman Mu, is there no room for negotiation? Yes, Mr. Mu. No. He was used to being domineering and never leaving any way out. He didn't like his woman to suffer any grievances. Moreover, if she really did cut her hair and let the two little lads see it, they would definitely cry their hearts out. Based on this, he would never allow anyone to touch her hair. Qin-jo felt like crying, but had no tears. Muyaja glanced at him sinisterly and suddenly smiled coldly. If you dare to touch her hair, I'll cut off all your hair and send you to the temple to be a monk. Knock, knock, knock. Chapter 2392. An image suddenly appeared in his mind. He was wearing a long yellow robe and kneeling in the temple. His shiny bald head was full of resentment and despair as he knocked on the wooden fish with a tuck-tuck-tuck sound. When he thought of this, he shuddered violently again and cried out, Don't! Chairman Mu, you can't be so cruel to me. Wasn't it just a haircut? Was there a need to come all the way here and put pressure on him? Qin-jo looked regretful. So, you can't be so cruel to me. Muyaja continued. This is an order. You can't go against it. Qin-jo's eyelids twitched violently. Then, something flashed in his mind, and he suddenly thought of something. He chuckled and said smugly, You have no right to order me around now. Huh? Muyaja looked at him with a puzzled expression. You're no longer the boss of Huanyu Entertainment. So, according to this, you're no longer my superior. Qin-jo laughed gloatingly. So, you have no right to order me to do this. This time, it was Muyaja's turn to be deflated. He couldn't help but clench his fists and glare at Qin-jo fiercely. Qin-jo was pleased with himself again. He smiled coquettishly and said, As for me, as Shirshir's manager, since the production team has such a request, I have to do it. Moreover, I've already done some psychological work for Sure. Her hair will be cut to her ears, and it will grow out again in a few months. So, Chairman Mu, you don't have to worry. Isn't it better to focus on the company's matters? Oh, is that so? Mu Yaja suddenly smiled faintly and looked at Qin Zhou meaningfully. Then, he picked up the black tea and took a sip. He smiled elegantly. Qin Zhou, you win. Qin Zhou replied politely. You're too kind, Chairman Mu. After bidding farewell to Mu Yaja, Qin Zhou secretly made a victory gesture. How satisfying. In the past, when Mu Yaja was still the CEO of the Mu Corporation, as the boss behind Huan Yu, he had always been pressured like Mount Tai. Now that he was no longer Huan Yu's boss, he had suffered a setback today. How could he not be happy? Qin Zhou got into the car with a smile on his face. However, 2 days later, he could no longer smile. Ever since Xingyu went public, their financial resources had been constantly expanding. Within a week of going public, they had completed a Series B financing. On the other hand, Mu Corporation was in deep trouble. Many shareholders withdrew their investments and frantically sold their shares. Soon, Dishing Financial Group was faced with a cash shortage. Due to the shortage of funds, many projects were stuck in place. It was as if they were facing losses of tens of millions every day. They could not bear the burden. As a result, the shareholders of Disheng, which used to be incomparably glorious, had no choice but to consider selling some of the businesses that Mu Group had a controlling stake in, including Huanyu Entertainment. At the same time, in the past 2 days, the Xingyu Financial Group had been buying up Huanyu Entertainment's shares like crazy. With its strong financial resources, it had acquired 50% of Huanyu Entertainment's shares at lightning speed. It was obvious that they were going to forcibly acquire Huanyu Entertainment. Chapter 2393. He didn't care much about the entertainment industry and didn't have the time to operate it. After Mu Yaja left, Huanyu Entertainment was like an orphan abandoned on an island, isolated and helpless. 3 days later, when Qin Zhou stepped into the company again, he could not bring himself to smile anymore. After the acquisition of Huanyu Entertainment, he walked into the CEO's office and saw Mu Yaja's name tag on the originally empty desk. His face was so ashen that it looked like it was about to crack open. Mu Yaja came down from the acquisition meeting and sat in his spacious office. Looking around, he saw Qin Zhou push the door open and enter the room. I think I have the right to order you around now. After he said that, he looked at Qin Zhou's ashen face and said nonchalantly, Oh, right. I've already invested in the production team. As the biggest investor, I'm sure the director will be happy to accept my small suggestion. He had spent more than 10 million on the production team. The production team was already facing a shortage of funds, so they were overjoyed to see such a wealthy investor come into the production team. Hence, they immediately nodded with a smile when they heard Mu Yaja's suggestion. Don't worry, CEO Mu. Based on your question, we can consider changing the female lead's character from short hair to long hair. What do you think? His fawning appearance made him want to kneel down and lick his boots. Qin Zhou was speechless. Other than resentment, there was nothing else to say. Hateful capitalists, the root of all evil. He cursed silently in his heart. You win. On this day, Yin Sure came back from the production team in high spirits. She was so happy that she was like a little bird. She ran into the study and chirped, Hubby, let me tell you a piece of good news. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders excitedly and beamed. Obviously, something good had happened. Mu Yaja naturally knew why she was so happy, but he still pretended to be puzzled and asked curiously, What good news has made you so excited? The director told me that the female lead can have long hair instead of short. This way, we just need to do a simple trim and won't have to cut her hair. Yin Sure was overjoyed. To be able to keep such beautiful long hair and not have any conflicts with the production team, it was simply too blissful. However, she was too naive and didn't think deeply about why the director's attitude towards her had suddenly become warm and respectful, and why the entire crew's attitude towards her had reversed 180 degrees. How could she have known that her dear husband had secretly bribed the production crew to achieve such a happy ending? Mu Yaja smiled faintly. As long as you're happy. This way, I can wear a beautiful wedding dress. Yin Shishir happily kissed his cheek. Muyaja couldn't help but smile. He didn't hesitate to spend a huge sum of money to acquire Huan Yu, and spent more than 10 million on the production team. He felt that it was worth it just to get a kiss from her. Muyaja placed his hand on the back of her hand and patted it gently. Apply for leave tomorrow. Yin Shishir didn't react for a moment. What for? Muyaja furrowed his brows. Idiot, didn't we agree that I would take you to pick a wedding dress? Yin Shishir slapped her forehead in annoyance and suddenly reacted. How could I forget about this? Chapter 2394. I'll leave you to your work then. I'll go ask Qinzhou for leave. With that, she left the study like a happy bird humming a tune. Muyaja watched her leave. He couldn't help but reach out his hand to gently touch the lingering warmth on his face. He couldn't help but smile. However, he quickly regained his serious expression. He took a sip of coffee and turned his gaze back to the computer screen. Yu Yu and Xiao Yiqin suddenly pushed open the study door and poked their little heads in. They asked curiously, Daddy, I heard that you and Mommy are going to pick out a wedding dress tomorrow. Muyaja raised his eyebrows. Yes, what's the matter? I want to go too. Xiao Yiqin was the first to raise his hand to sign up. Yu Yu looked at him disdainfully. Why are you making such a fuss over this? Xiao Yiqin said matter-of-factly, because I want to pick out a beautiful wedding dress for Mommy. You want to pick out a wedding dress for Mommy based on your taste? Yu Yu looked at him with disdain again. You're not reliable. Xiao Yiqin pressed his hand to his hurt chest again. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. Yu Yu, are you doubting my taste? Your taste is terrible. Yu Yu suddenly said proudly, pick out a wedding dress for Mommy is such a sacred task. Leave it to me. So, Mommy and I will pick out a wedding dress tomorrow. You just have to stay at home and mop the floor. Xiao Yiqin burst into tears. No, you're leaving me at home and having fun while I have to do the housework. It's not fair. Muyaja glared at them fiercely. Stop fooling around. Go back to your room and sleep. Okay. The two little rascals replied with an okay and closed the door. However, Yu Yu and Xiao Yiqin lay in bed. The two little rascals tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Yu Yu, yes? What kind of wedding dress do you think Mommy will look good in? In the darkness, Yu Yu slowly opened her eyes and raised her eyebrows. Mommy has a great figure. You'll look good in any wedding dress. There must be a most suitable style, the one that looks the most beautiful on the body. Yu Yu had done her homework before, so she knew a lot about the styles of wedding gowns. For example, the mermaid wedding dress was made of satin, organza, and lace. It perfectly performed the unique elegance of the mermaid wedding dress. However, such a wedding dress was the most exquisite. If the figure was graceful enough, it would definitely be luxurious and beautiful. However, Yu was very confident in her mother's figure. She believed that she would be able to pull off this style of wedding dress perfectly. In addition to the fishtail, there was also a chest wrap design. It was a more classic princess-style wedding dress. The heart-shaped chest wrap could show off the beautiful lines of the shoulders and neck. Yu preferred the A-line wedding dress. It was elegant, charming, and not exaggerated. The outline of the skirt was restrained, which was more suitable for her mother's tall figure. It was the style of socialite, beautiful and moving. The puffy skirt wedding dress is also not bad. It's the most classic style. The deep V-neck mermaid wedding dress is also beautiful. Mommy will look perfect in it. How many wedding dresses did Daddy hire the designer to design? I heard that Daddy asked the designer to design more than 10 dresses. It's enough for us to choose from. Aya, don't think too much. Go to bed early. We have to wake up early tomorrow. Yu said, then go to bed quickly. Don't be noisy. Chapter 2395. Soon, Xiao Yiqin fell asleep and entered a sweet dream. Yu, however, was still unable to fall asleep. With his eyes closed, images of Yin Shishir in various wedding gowns kept appearing in his mind. This was especially so when he imagined his mommy standing in front of him in a pure and noble mermaid wedding gown with a gentle smile and charming eyes. His heart was thumping violently, and his heart was surging with emotions. Ah, sure enough, he has a soft spot for mermaid wedding gowns. Yu smacked his forehead heavily and said, "What nonsense are you thinking about? You should sleep early, or else you won't have the energy tomorrow." He closed his eyes, but his little head could not help but let his imagination run wild. He only fell asleep when it was very late. That night was especially long for Song Inya. She lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. The Muse sent word that Mu Yinxing and Mu Shumin would visit them next week. They were ready to start making arrangements for the marriage between the Muse and the Songs. When Jiang Qiming heard this news, she was so elated that she could not contain her joy. However, even though she had achieved her goal, she was not as happy as Jiang Qiming. She no longer had any expectations for marriage and only saw it as a way to return home. Yes, wasn't every marriage a way to return home for a woman? It was just that for most unfortunate women, it was a way to return to the end of the world. Only a few could lead to happiness. However, she was not one of the lucky ones. Her marriage was bound to be unfortunate. She would probably be like her disappointing mother and father. When she was young, she had the impression that Jiang Qiming and Song Zhenghua were constantly at odds. On the surface, they seemed to be harmonious, but she had seen with her own eyes how difficult and fragile this marriage was. To be precise, her mother and father were united by marriage. Song Zhenghua didn't love Jiang Qiming, and similarly, Jiang Qiming didn't love Song Zhenghua very much. Marriage was just a way to return home. Therefore, she hated marriage from the bottom of her heart. It was precisely because she knew that a marriage without strong feelings would be a lifetime of sorrow. Therefore, when she met the person she liked, she fell in love with him without regard for her own safety. Only two people who truly loved each other could live happily ever after in a marriage, right? After marrying into the Mu family, she even imagined that she would become a woman like her mother. She would guard such a big home, guard an empty bed, and guard her weak position all the time. Yes, marrying into the Mu family meant a lifetime of glory and wealth. Many people were envious. However, it also meant a lifetime of shackles. She became the kind of unfortunate woman who despised the most when she was young. How ironic. After taking a shower, Jiang Qiming entered the room in her pajamas. She turned on the wall lamp and asked softly, "Inya, are you asleep?" "No. Go pick out a wedding dress with me tomorrow." "Wedding dress?" Song Inya said helplessly. "Mom, Mu Yinxing and I aren't engaged yet. Isn't it too rushed to pick out a wedding dress now?"